this school, the bullies ruled. The police and the teachers turned a blind eye, while the students suffered. Anyone who didn't pay was turned into a punching bag. But one day, a new student arrived. He barely spoke, yet he immediately caught the girls' attention. They admired his looks, but he wasn't just handsome. One day, he walked into a classroom and asked if the boss of the school was there. The girls were already in love, while he knocked down the first bully with a single punch. Another bully stood up and asked if he even knew who they were. Doyle simply replied that he didn't. He had just transferred today. The bully punched his chest, but Doyle crushed his hand in mid-strike. Screaming in pain, the bully begged, saying he wasn't the boss. He pointed at another student, claiming that guy was the leader. Without hesitation, Doyle knocked that bully out cold. Then he walked over, calmly asking if this one was the boss of the school. Before the guy could even answer, he was slapped across the face. Falling from his chair, he tried to fight back, but Doyle landed a perfect punch straight to his face, and it didn't end there. He kicked the bully into the air while the nerds watched in shock, and the girls fell even harder for him, because beyond his looks, this guy was a pure, unstoppable monster. The scene changes, and the boy with glasses asks if he wants him to deal with each one, but the protagonist gets straight to the point, asking how much he'll get paid for this. The boy is speechless, just staring, not understanding the question about money. So the hero explains that if they need his strength, he's going to want some cash in return. The boy finds this absurd, saying that with great power comes great responsibility. He gets worked up and shouts that because he's strong, the new kid has a duty to protect the weak. But the protagonist tells him to forget that nonsense and threatens to leave without payment. Desperate, the boy asks him to wait, reminding him of what he saw happen yesterday. He says that people like them desperately need our hero's help. With a hand on his chest, he explains that many of his friends suffer from this every day. And then, an image shows the boy himself, all beaten up, with a black eye. He continues his rant, explaining that even the teachers don't seem to care about the situation. Even in the classroom, no one does anything to help, leaving the students to fend for themselves. Because if they snitch to the adults, the bullies promise to make things ugly. The boy says that every day felt like they were lost in the dark, without any hope. But then, yesterday, the protagonist showed up and showed them a new path. And in the middle of that endless darkness, he finally saw a ray of light. Seeing that the hero seemed moved, he begs with all his soul for his help. But the new kid cuts the drama short, and with absurd coldness, tells him to just get lost. Shocked, the boy hears the hero say he understands the situation, but he has his own problems. The boy then stares at him with a serious look, processing that unexpected response. He has a flashback of a bully threatening him and demanding money from him. The memory torments him with the attacker shouting in his ear, repeating the word money. With his face trembling in anger, he seems to have finally reached a conclusion. He then shouts, asking why a student would need cash so desperately. The protagonist turns and asks, seriously, if he's ever heard of assassins. The boy with glasses is completely confused, not understanding what he's suddenly talking about. Then the new kid reveals that his father is the head of Blackhead, the largest organization of assassins. Shocked, the boy repeats the name, but the only thing that comes to his mind is blackheads. The protagonist continues the story, saying that a while ago his parents got divorced. The girl listening from afar is confused, thinking the blackheads got divorced. He explains that since his dad made his mom cry, they came to Korea without any plan. But his father got furious, and as revenge, blocked all their bank accounts. His dream was to live in the highest place in Korea, but now things have gotten complicated. Anyway, he needs money, and that's why he has an interview at Burger Kim today. The boy is stunned because the story is so absurd it might actually be true. Without a second thought, he makes a counteroffer and shouts that he'll pay $50,000 per person. The hero turns around, and the boy gets nervous, wondering if he offered too little. With a serious look and the sky in the background, the protagonist simply says, "It's a deal." The girl with the phone is once again captivated, thinking he's damn handsome. The scene shifts to night, with a group of bullies talking about how Kang-wook lost to the new kid. The judo club captain, Park Ju-hyung, doubts the new kid defeated 3 people by himself. With Kang-wook's defeat, it seems like their source of cash might have just dried up. At this, the vice captain, Park Ju-dong, gets angry and crushes his cup, cursing everyone out. The horse-faced guy tells the hero to sit down, but he says it doesn't matter if he gets caught. He then explains that these guys are on another level, and that Kang-wook was just a loser. Because the real bosses of the school are the judo twins, Ju-hyung and Ju-dong. They were hiding behind Kang-wook to keep their records clean while exploiting the students. The protagonist then asks if he just has to fight them, and the horse-faced guy agrees. Just then, the girl with the phone gets a message confirming the deal has been closed. The girls watch from a distance, thinking the protagonist's voice is incredibly sexy. One of the twins then asks the girl to show him what she's staring at on her phone, but she refuses and tells him to stop smoking as the hero runs towards them. In the blink of an eye, the protagonist arrives and lands a brutal punch right in the bully's face. The twin hits the ground instantly, screaming in pain and bleeding from the blow. With the force of the impact, the cups he was holding fly everywhere, hitting the floor. The girls are shocked, unable to believe that this was the famous transfer student. The twin who got hit is on the ground, trembling all over, with no strength to get up. Then, the other brother stands up and asks who he is, and why he attacked out of nowhere. He puts out his cigarette on the ground, seeming indignant at his opponent's good looks. With that, he charges forward, yelling and asking if the skinny guy wants to die. The protagonist remains silent, and the twin finds his calmness strange. He looks around, wondering if the hero is waiting for backup to arrive, but the new kid simply calls him a fake and prepares to attack with speed. He lunges forward with a precise strike, leaving the bully completely defenseless. The punch lands squarely, caving in the twin's face with the force of the impact. It's then that we're told this is the story of how he became the strongest in the world. The scene shows the hero landing a brutal blow right in the enemy's private parts. The impact is so powerful that the whole world seems to explode with the force of the blow. The twin screams in pain, feeling an agony he never imagined was possible. Now, with both brothers on the ground, the protagonist prepares to finish the job. With a devastating stomp, the protagonist finishes off the last brother, who passes out instantly. From a distance, the girl says his good looks are making her dizzy, leaving her friend confused. She's completely smitten, sighing and thinking about how damn handsome he is. The hero then receives his payment, with 2 notifications for 50,000 appearing on the screen. He stares down at his defeated enemies with a cold look, showing the job is done. One of the students starts shouting in Japanese, throwing flyers all over the hallway. They announce that Kim Doyle will punish the twins from the judo club. As a result, our protagonist is suddenly treated like a true king by everyone. They even carry him on their shoulders, but he asks what the hell they're doing. The kid with glasses then explains that they need to show their influence in every classroom. It's to make it crystal clear what happens to anyone who messes with them. Then, the group announces the king's arrival, getting the other students super excited. The hero says he'll do whatever they want as long as he gets paid, but that the parade is extra. He takes the cash, but finds it strange and asks why there are only 10,001 bills here. He remembers taking care of 4 people, including the 2 twins and their goons. He then asks if the other 2 shouldn't be included in the payment as well. The kid with glasses panics, saying the request was only for the 2 brothers, but the hero tells him to cough up another 100,001, calling him a rich playboy. He says that since the kid's family is rich, 200,001 would be nothing for him to pay. The kid is shocked, asking how he knew and if he approached him already knowing this. In a flashback, the kid's friends explain they don't help him for money. The protagonist then says that everyone at school already knows that. It's no secret. He reminds him that he was the one who came begging for help. Back in the present, he tells the kid to stop stalling and pay up. With no other choice, the kid with glasses smiles and gives an okay sign, agreeing. Someone then holds one of the flyers, admiring our hero's picture. In the classroom, the girls talk about how someone can be so perfect. One of them comments that the whole school is in chaos, with everyone looking at the flyer. But the other one stands up furiously, shouting about who dares to look at her husband's photo. Her friend is shocked by the reaction, and suddenly her eyes turn different colors. At that moment, the whole room is engulfed in a pink light, with all the girls falling in love. The girl then gets enraged, and with a fiery aura, tells everyone to stop. She yells for all the girls to drop the flyers of her man immediately. With a pen, she threatens anyone caught peeking at her husband's flyer again. She warns that if it happens, one of them will die, and the other girl agrees in fear. She demands her classmate hand over the flyer, but the girl denies having one. The friend is confused, continuing to put on makeup as if nothing happened. Mina gets annoyed at anyone looking at her husband, until her friend calls her over to see something. She then turns to her friend, curious and not understanding what's going on. The girl shows her the phone, which has several threatening messages from some guy named Jang Hyunwoo. Now, with the flyers in hand, she seems determined to settle this situation once and for all. The scene then shifts to a dark, deserted street, setting the stage for the confrontation. Our hero finds out that today's target is Jang Hyunwoo from Cheongil High. The horse-faced guy explains that he's the famous king of South Seoul, a very dangerous opponent. Besides him, some of a guy named Pai Jicheol's subordinates are also in the alley. But the focus today is Jang Hyunwoo, because he's not an opponent to be underestimated. We find out he's a 3-time boxing champion, with an insane physique and instincts. Not even the Judo twins fighting together stood a chance against him. The protagonist remembers beating the twins, but his friend warns him that Hyunwoo is very cruel, because when he targets someone, He doesn't stop tormenting them, laughing sinisterly. He continues the chase to the very limit, to the point where death seems like a better option. The horse-faced guy warns that he's on another level, and that he'll call the cops if things go south. But when he turns to continue the warning, our hero has already vanished. The scene shifts to the alley, where Hyunwoo finds Mina, who stares him down firmly. He's confused by the situation and asks her what's going on. Just then, Kangwook arrives, and Hyunwoo says none of this would have happened if he had just answered his calls. But Mina scorns him, saying he's no friend of hers since he lost to the new kid. Kangwook is outraged by her response and calls her every name in the book. Hyunwoo then starts laughing, saying this is why he won't give up on his princess. She's confused by what he said, as he stares at her with a bizarre smile. He begs Mina, asking her to go out with him on just 3 dates. Then he approaches the group, speaking strangely in the third person. Poor Kangwook is already on the ground, completely beaten and with no strength to defend himself. With a disgusting look, Hyunwoo promises he'll make everything very fun for her. But suddenly, a bottle flies towards him, interrupting the aggressor. The bottle shatters against Hyunwoo's head, sending shards of glass everywhere. From the impact, he gets dizzy and doubles over in pain, not understanding what happened. Then our hero approaches, lamenting that he couldn't end it all in a single blow. Mina's jaw drops, unable to believe the new student appeared out of nowhere to help. Hyunwoo gets up, irritated, and with a furious glare, asking who the hell he is. The protagonist replies that he's the guy who's going to finish him, leaving Mina completely smitten. He then looks back and finds it strange that she's everywhere he goes. The hero starts to get suspicious, wondering if she's watching him for some reason. He then takes a step towards her and calls her over for a talk, making the girl nervous. He warns that if she's up to something, he'll kill her, but she just asks him to kill her instead. Seeing this, Hyunwoo goes crazy with rage and yells at the new kid for touching her. He then lunges at him with everything he's got, ready to land a blow and finish the hero. Kangwook, who was nearby, shouts that he's rushing in with his special move. From a distance, the horse-faced guy is startled by the speed and yells for Doyle to be careful, but suddenly a liquid splashes on the ground, and he doesn't understand what it was. Hyunwoo feels the liquid on his face, not understanding what the hell just happened. He gets paranoid, thinking it might be some kind of weird chemical. But the protagonist warns that you shouldn't startle people by showing up out of nowhere like that, because if he gets too shocked, he ends up spitting by accident, like a defense mechanism. Then, he lands a devastating blow right between Hyunwoo's legs. The guy screams in pain, unable to believe the low blow he just took in the middle of a fight. Our hero then wipes his mouth with his arm, as if nothing happened. With a firm stomp on the ground, he prepares to continue the attack without letting up. He grabs a chair out of nowhere and charges, leaving Hyunwoo furious. The aggressor doesn't understand how he spat on him, and then pulled a chair out of thin air. The new kid simply calls him a fake, and smashes the chair over his head. Hyunwoo flies backward, cursing, calling the protagonist a crazy bastard. With a look of pure hatred, he swears he's going to end the new kid's life. He then charges forward with all his might, screaming that he's going to kill that bastard right now. But the hero dodges with absurd ease, letting the blow hit nothing but air. Hyunwoo's punch whistles past, but our hero dodges with great agility. Kangwook watches from afar, thinking it's impossible for the new kid to beat a guy like him. But the protagonist readies a counterattack, clenching his fist with all his strength. With a precise strike to the ribs, he makes Hyunwoo scream in pain from the blow. The two of them can't believe what they just saw, wondering how it was even possible. The hero then grabs the enemy's clothes, twisting the fabric with great force. Hyunwoo cries out in pain, saying his right rib was completely hit. Then, the protagonist pulls out 2 batons, preparing for his next move. He warns that those aren't broken yet, because the ones that will break are the others. Then he attacks the other side, smashing Hyunwoo's ribs with full force. We see his bones shattering, showing the absurd force of the impact. The bully screams in desperation, feeling unbearable pain and losing his breath. Completely finished, he's hunched over on the ground while the hero watches him. The goons who were watching fall silent, completely shocked by the scene. The hero picks up a stool, and one of the guys starts crying out of pure fear. Hyunwoo is on the ground, unable to breathe, and the hero tries to remember what he was supposed to say. That's when the horse-faced guy shows up, reminding him to deliver the anti-bullying message. But the protagonist can't remember the line, and his friend yells that he was supposed to memorize it. So he improvises and tells the bully to live quietly if he doesn't want more trouble. One of the goons is terrified, as the threat seems very serious and direct. The hero warns that if he slips up, he will drag down and destroy everything he loves, and then kill him. From afar, Mina is completely smitten, silently pleading for him not to fight over her. She then leans against the wall, thinking how cruel this competitive society is. The next day, The scene shifts to a completely destroyed and bloodied punching bag. Blood drips to the floor as a guy asks what this Sumoon high place is. He finds out that Jang Hyun-woo lost to them and ended up in the hospital. The group thinks he must have been jumped by several people, wondering what kind of rebellion this was. A new fighter then gets ready, saying it's been a while since he's beaten someone up. He is Im Jong-bom, rank 4 of Ilgyung, and he asks if they're going to crush some worms. On the school court, Im Jong-bom, rank 4, shows up asking if the whole crew is there. One of the guys, all beaten up, nervously confirms that yeah, they've arrived. He thinks to himself that Jong Byum is younger, but he's a monster in a fight. But the group's leader isn't convinced, thinking a lot of people are missing. A henchman explains that the sophomore leader was hospitalized, but Jong Byum wants to know about the Judo guys. The guy then says they're also in the hospital, leaving the boss completely confused. With a threatening look, he asks if the kid is messing with him. Without a second thought, he lands a powerful blow right in the poor guy's stomach. Next, he grabs him by the collar, saying he's going to help him understand reality. The henchman screams in pain, saying he wishes it were a lie too, but it's not his fault. Young Bom squeezes his face hard, telling him he has no idea what's been going on. With a raised fist, he shouts furiously, asking if they think this is funny. The guy panics and starts yelling, blaming the transfer student for the whole situation. But in the middle of the shouting, a hand suddenly appears, signaling for him to stop. He continues his rant, blaming the new student and some guy named Jang Hyun-woo for everything. The henchman, shaking with fear, explains that it's all the new student's fault, sir. Jong Bom throws his cigarette on the ground, curious about this so-called transfer student. With a wicked smile, he bluntly asks where that bastard is now. The scene shifts to a classroom, where we see a picture in a notebook of Doyle punishing the twins. Meanwhile, Seol Mina is swooning over her phone, happy she managed to get something going with the new guy. She admires a picture of him, thinking that Kim Doyle's side profile is to die for. Suddenly in the photo, it's as if he's looking directly at her, noticing the camera. He then covers the lens, telling her to stop being an idiot and hang up. The phone screen goes black for a moment, as if the call dropped, but the call comes back, and he asks in a threatening tone if she wants to die somewhere quiet. Mina interprets everything romantically, laughing and imagining herself with him. At that moment, the teacher at the front of the class asks anyone who wants to join the film club to raise their hand. Super excited, Mina and her friends shout that they want to join the film club. The teacher is pleased, commenting on how popular the club seems to be this year. But to her surprise, most of the boys in the class also raised their hands to join. She's in shock, wondering how those guys dare to want to join the film club. In her delusions, the club is a sacred place for her and Doyle, not for nerds. For her, the film club is the heart of the school, and now it will all be hers. With a monstrous expression, she screams for everyone to keep their hands far away from what's hers, but it was all just a mental tantrum, as everyone else kept their hands raised. The scene shifts to Doyle, who's drinking a juice and needs to find out who Mina is hanging out with. Donggu explains that she's Seol Mina, the weird girl who's always staring at people. Doyle becomes suspicious, thinking that maybe his father sent the girl to watch him. Just then, his friend asks which club he got himself into, and Doyle replies that it was the anime club. Donggu panics, because the anime club is like the sacred refuge for otakus. He's outraged, accusing Doyle of trying to steal the only territory they had. The scene cuts back, and the henchman points to Doyle, saying he's the one who beat up the Judo twins. Jongbum gets angry at the talk, telling him to shut up about it and not ruin his rep. Then he asks if that was the guy who also gave the feared Jang Hyun-woo a beating. With the answer, Jong Byum and his partner slowly walk toward our hero. As the gang approaches, Donggu says that as a member of the club, he can't accept Doyle. Kim Doyle turns around, completely confused, with a question mark hovering over his head. Suddenly he stands up and Donggu gets scared, saying he didn't even watch the anime properly. In the blink of an eye, Doyle just bolts forward, catching everyone by surprise. His friend is left behind, yelling and asking where he's going in such a hurry. But the protagonist doesn't stop, continuing his high-speed run down the street. The henchman from the other gang gets spooked, realizing Doyle is heading right for them. He thinks the guy is a maniac for charging at them the second he saw them. In his mind, Doyle believes that taking the initiative is a good idea, despite it being a simple trick. The henchman gives a slight smirk, thinking that kind of tactic won't work on them. With a leap, Doyle lands right in the middle of the group, facing down the leader, Jong Byum. Jong Byum gets into a fighting stance, recognizing that Doyle is tough and that this won't be easy. Out of nowhere, he launches a super fast punch toward our hero's face, but to his surprise, Doyle dodges the attack with impressive agility, and without wasting a moment, Doyle immediately prepares a counterattack with a precise and powerful strike. Doyle not only dodges, but he simply runs past and ignores Jong Beom's punch. He keeps moving forward without a single look back, focused on his real goal. Jong Beom is left completely baffled, wondering what the hell is up with this crazy new kid. Meanwhile, Mina tells her friend that Doyle definitely joined the film club, but suddenly, the protagonist appears right in front of her, catching the girl by surprise. She gets all happy and flushed, thinking he showed up there just for her. Startled, the photos she was carrying of him go flying everywhere. Then he pins her against the wall, asking who she is and why she's stalking him. Doyle wants to know the reason for the photos, and if his father sent her. But the girl is completely lost in her own fantasy, thinking he already wants to talk about family. Seeing the scene, her friend gets scared, while Jong Beom notices Doyle picking up the photos. The rank 4 is furious, as his punch and his presence were completely ignored. Doyle sends a message that he's not coming back, making Mina think it's because of her. Enraged at being treated like trash, Jong Beom runs to attack Doyle from behind. Seeing the danger, Dong-gu panics and screams Kim Doyle's name at the top of his lungs. Doyle spins around and lands a direct hit, sending Jong Beom flying from the impact. In the middle of the chaos, Mina takes advantage of the embrace, thinking the whole situation is great for her. Jong Beom gets up furiously, telling the Doyle vermin to stop moving and just die. In an alley, Doyle asks why he didn't run when he had the chance to leave. With a cold stare, he warns that even if he prays now, it's over. There's no turning back. The rank 4 gets pissed at his audacity, yelling as he charges forward with a powerful blow. Doyle manages to block the punch, showing he's not messing around. Then the enemy tries a spinning kick, putting all his strength into the surprise attack. But the protagonist dodges with mastery, evading every blow with agility. He blocks another punch, stopping his opponent's fist with the palm of his hand. With a serious look and his fist glowing, Doyle prepares to counter with everything he's got. Suddenly, an older man appears shouting, wanting to know what the brats are doing. And we're introduced to Wang Duchiol, the head of student affairs at Sumoon School. Seeing the teacher, Yongbum tells Doyle he's one lucky bastard and backs off. He complains that the old-timers are a problem, always showing up at the wrong times. Jongbum takes a cigarette from the pack, all confident and calm. He warns Doyle that this isn't over and that they'll see each other after school. Then he calmly lights his cigarette, getting ready to leave with his crew. The whole group turns their backs and starts to walk away, thinking the matter was settled. But suddenly, Yongbyum spins around with a look of utter shock, not understanding what just happened. The teacher and Donggu are also shocked, completely frozen by the scene. Even Mina, who was watching from a distance, covers her mouth, surprised by the turn of events. Turns out, Doyle knocked the guy out and is now calling him a pest, standing over his body. On the ground, Jongbyum is completely unconscious, leaving a mystery in the air about what happened. We are then shown that Doyle landed a brutal elbow strike right on the back of his enemy's neck. The henchman panics, thinking the new kid is dead for having drawn blood. Desperate, Donggu shouts that Doyle crossed the line by touching the gang's leader. The scene changes completely, taking us to a house with a very modern look. Inside, we see someone slowly pouring boiling water from a metal kettle. A tattooed blonde man is torturing someone tied up, asking if the water is hot. The tied-up victim screams in pain, while the blonde asks why she was trying to run from him. Angrily, he throws the metal kettle hard on the floor, breaking the silence of the place. He then grabs the girl, complaining that he gave her food and a roof over her head. With a lit cigarette, he threatens her, asking what would happen if he caught her. He reminds her that he promised if he found her, he would gouge her eyes out. The cigarette gets closer and closer to the girl's eye as she panics in fear. But just in time, his phone rings, interrupting the moment of pure tension. He steps away to answer the call, leaving the girl tied up and breathless on the floor. The scene shows us a house full of people, revealing the gang's base of operations. On the other end of the line, a mysterious voice wants to know what happened with Jong Beom at school, and the person speaking is Im Jong-chan, Il-gyung's rank 2, showing that this whole thing is a lot more serious. We're told there are people feared throughout the country, spreading terror wherever they go. They're known as the 12 most notorious delinquents, the true elite of Korean brutality. But Doyle is mopping the floor, complaining that they're nothing but a bunch of kids. Just then, the student president arrives shouting, putting him on bathroom cleaning duty for a week. Dong-gu tries to warn him that the problem is serious, but the protagonist pushes him away with the squeegee. Desperate, he yells that Doyle messed with the feared Il-gyung crew, which wasn't part of the plan. He explains that Il-gyung always gets revenge when blood is spilled, but Doyle doesn't seem to care. The protagonist keeps cleaning, saying they started it and that this is getting old. Fed up, he announces he's quitting this job and that it's better to find a part-time gig. Dong-gu is shocked by the news, saying it pays more than a normal job and even has benefits, but Doyle turns around with a cold glare, telling him to just get out of his sight right now. The boy gulps, left completely speechless by his friend's intimidating reaction. So, he turns and starts walking away, leaving Doyle behind in the school bathroom. With a worried look, he seems to be thinking about the mess they both got into. But out of nowhere, someone hits him from behind, yelling that he should greet his elders. The bully gets angry at the way Dong-gu stares at him, asking if he wants to die. But suddenly, Kim Doyle appears right behind him, leaving the guy completely stunned. A notice on the wall makes it clear: if you do something bad, Kim Doyle will find you. The aggressor then laughs awkwardly, saying it was just a joke to lighten the mood. In his thoughts, Dong-gu reflects that for a few days, he had finally felt safe. He remembers he could even skip lunch to go to the store with his friends. In class, he could smell his own good lunch, without fear of it getting mixed with someone else's. He could even wear his own gym clothes and sit peacefully at his desk. And most importantly, for the first time, he wasn't getting beaten up anymore. But with Doyle gone, he realizes it's time for everything to go back to how it was before. Suddenly, a new bully grabs him, saying he's the friend of the guy from the rumors. The scene shifts to a dirty alley, showing the meeting spot for the rival school's gang. There, Zhangbaum gets up in pain, asking where the hell the bastard who hit him is. A beat-up henchman says he doesn't know, swearing he has no idea where he is. Losing his patience, Zhangbaum takes his anger out on him with a brutal punch right to the poor guy's face. Zhangbaum, out of patience, tells the idiot to call and ask if he doesn't know where he is. With a bleeding nose, the henchman grabs his phone, dialing a number while shaking in fear. But instead of calling a friend, he dials the police, 112. The red-haired bully catches him in the act, asking what the hell he thinks he's doing. The scene changes to another location, where a rooftop door is kicked open with great force. And there, the bullies are beating up Dong-gu, yelling at him for trying to call the cops. Lying on the ground, the boy can only groan in pain, unable to defend himself from the attacks. They keep kicking him, saying the cops don't do anything and that he's a sucker. The scene shifts again, and we see Doyle trying to get a job at a diner called Burger Kim. During the interview, the manager asks for his special skills, and he says he knows how to fight and throw daggers. The manager is confused by the answer, thinking Doyle isn't all there. He thinks that despite the weird talk, this is a restaurant and they don't need a knife thrower. Just then, a huge guy enters the shop screaming in pain, complaining about his stomach. The manager then dismisses Doyle from the position, but invites him to have a burger there later. The large man shows a photo, complaining that he ate a burger and there was a cockroach in it. A customer is horrified by the food, but a young man explains that it's just an olive. The store manager gets confused as the large man suddenly starts yelling at him. He then grabs him, saying he always gets sick, and the manager tries to calm him down. The manager then asks the employee to get some money while he takes the man to the back of the store. Just then, Doyle appears and grabs the aggressor, who threatens him for touching a minor. The hefty man is completely confused, looking back with a questioning expression. With a cold gaze, our hero simply asks what the guy's deal is, making the atmosphere tense. The scene returns to the alley, where the bully finds out they don't have Doyle's number. Zhangbaum gets furious, as he has no idea how the bastard managed to escape. Out of patience, he kicks the henchman one more time and tells his gang to leave. We then see the Ilgyung gang walking as a group, showing they rule the area. Rank 2, Im Jong-chan, appears, talking about their collection team's training. Rank 5, Choi Hyo-chang, says he ordered the deposits to be raised to 500,000. He also reports that the guys are well fed, and the boss seems to agree with everything. Arriving at the diner, Jong-chan tells his right-hand man they'll check the place out first. Doyle and Jong-chan lock eyes for a moment before turning their backs on each other. The door's bell rings, announcing the arrival of new customers at Burger Kim. But upon entering, the Ilgyung gang finds the bullies lying beaten and bloody on the floor. With a sinister smile, Jong-chan seems to find the whole situation very interesting. He then looks at the bodies on the floor, wondering what bastard had the guts to do this. The customers and employees are in shock, remembering that Doyle threw French fries like daggers. Jong-chan realizes the one responsible for the mess is no longer there, and that he's already escaped. But out of the corner of his eye, he spots someone passing by outside the diner and gets an idea. He then orders his henchman to grab the kid who just walked by in a Sumoon uniform. Seeing the guy's slowness, he yells furiously, telling him to go after the kid right now. Far from there, Doyle walks along, thinking he needs someone who will pay him immediately for his help. Suddenly, he stops when he sees a familiar object lying on the ground right in front of him. It was Dong-gu, waiting breathlessly in front of his house, his face all bruised. He says he heard about the job interview and came all this way just to make sure. With a relieved smile, he says, "Thank God Doyle is safe." Doyle stares at his bruised friend and asks if he got beat up at school again. Just then, a chubby guy arrives yelling, complaining that Doyle walks too fast. The protagonist then turns slowly to see who's bothering him. The guy introduces himself as Choi Hyo-chang from Il-gyung and tells Doyle to come closer. Seeing he's being ignored, he yells furiously, asking if the bastard is deaf. Doyle doesn't even pay attention to him and asks Dong-gu if the money is still on the table. With a relieved smile, the injured friend immediately confirms the job offer. He just warns that this time there will be no severance pay and seems happy with the deal. Without warning, Doyle throws his drink right in Choi Hyo-chang's face. And before the guy can react, he follows up with a super stylish aerial kick. The attack lands squarely on his back, throwing the bully hard to the ground. On the ground, the Il-gyung henchman can only scream in pain from the impact of the fall. To finish it off, Doyle lands a powerful blow right in the middle of his face. The bully's face contorts in pain, showing he's been knocked out for good. The scene ends with Doyle dragging the henchman into an alley, cleaning up the mess. The merciless beating continues, with blood flying everywhere in the dark alley. One of the guys tries to scream for him to stop, but gets a punch that shuts him up instantly. After finishing them all off, Doyle finally takes a breath, leaving the bodies on the ground. He then turns to the two who are left, who are paralyzed with fear at the sight. With a victorious air, he asks Dong-gu if there's a performance bonus. The scene changes, and now the two are in a convenience store, peacefully eating ramen. Dong-gu explains that it's ganpagetti, a legendary mix of two spicy noodles. He says the flavor is incredible for the price, but tells Doyle not to even think about ordering fried pork. The protagonist stays silent for a moment, just observing the store and the situation. Then, he reminds Dong-gu of the bonus promise and asks how much he's going to get. Without even blinking, Doyle says he wants the small fortune of 5 million won. Dong-gu chokes on his food, and Doyle informs him there's a condition in return. With a cold gaze, he promises he'll completely annihilate Il-gyung-hae within a week. His friend is completely paralyzed, unable to believe what he just heard from Doyle, but suddenly he bursts out laughing, thinking it's the most ridiculous joke in the world. He asks why Doyle needs the money, and he explains his father froze his accounts. Dong-gu doesn't buy the story, and asks why Doyle lives like that then. He says he investigated his friend's family, and that they're very rich and powerful. Doyle suggests he should move to a private school, where he wouldn't be bullied anymore. But Dong-gu reveals that his parents don't care, as they're out of the country at the moment. Doyle becomes thoughtful for a second, just processing everything his friend said. He then bows, telling Dong-gu to stop smiling like an idiot after getting beaten up. With a bag in his hand, he thanks him for the food and the items he received. He says he's leaving now, surprising Dong-gu with his haste. The protagonist then turns his back and starts walking alone down the dark street. Dong-gu cheerfully says goodbye, telling him to be careful on his way home. But out of nowhere, Seol Mina appears around the corner, surprised to see Doyle passing by. She gets all flustered, thinking this can only be a true encounter with destiny. The scene changes, and we see Jong-chan staring at the bodies of his henchmen on the ground. His fist clenches. His anger explodes, showing things have gotten serious. He then orders his men to call Park Kang-wook from Sumoon High right now. Completely possessed by hatred, he screams his great rival's name at the top of his lungs. Far away, a young man panics in the bathroom, seeing who's calling his phone. We're told that Il-gyung-hae is one of the worst delinquent schools in all of Seoul. Most students have a criminal record, making it an extremely dangerous place for anyone. In other words, the school is full of psychos who can't even enroll in a normal place. The school is so neglected that there's even a designated area just for students to smoke. And don't even bother with the teachers since they take bribes to ignore all the wrongdoing. There's even a rumor that the principal of Il-gyung-hae is a retired gangster. But in the end, the school's biggest problem is their leader, the boss of the 12 nations. And the name of this guy, who runs everything there, is the feared and dangerous P.G. Haeol. The school used to be divided, but he was the only one who united the factions by force. Now he runs several operations, like a major motorcycle theft ring. On top of that, the guy is involved in insurance fraud and even crimes against minors. His gang also lives off extorting and threatening local restaurants. He's so ruthless, they say he's even killed someone just for money. Dong-gu then gets desperate, asking if Doyle finally understands the danger. But Doyle retorts, wanting to know where he got that unicorn mask. He warns that the gun has rubber bullets and again demands his performance bonus. His friend insists they can still go back, because not even the police mess with Il-gyung. Doyle says that's even better, leaving Donggu in a panic at his calmness. He then turns to a random guy and bluntly asks if he's PG Hale. The delinquent gets angry at his audacity, saying he's completely lost his mind. Then Doyle fires at the ground, the rubber bullet ricocheting right near his foot. The guy gets scared by the gunshot, falling backward, utterly terrified by the situation. And without giving him time to think, Doyle fires another shot, catching him by surprise. His friend is in shock, unable to believe what he's seeing happen in front of him. Enraged, the other guy charges at him, yelling and asking who this psycho is. But Doyle meets him with a precise strike, using the gun itself to add more impact. Next, he stomps hard on the guy's foot, who screams in pain from the blow. He then raises the gun, preparing to pistol whip him. The blow lands squarely on the delinquent's shoulder, who feels the full impact. The force was so great that we're shown his shoulder was completely dislocated. Lying on the ground, he screams in pain as Doyle points the gun right in his face. With the guy subdued, he prepares to get the information he wants so badly. With eyes red with rage, he orders them to bring PG Hale there. Right at that moment, the scene cuts, and we see Jongbyum complaining that his head still hurts. He thinks that if it weren't collection day, he would have already gone after that bastard. Meanwhile, he hears some gunshots, but doesn't pay much attention to the sound. Suddenly, a henchman runs in, warning that they have a huge problem. Jongbum doesn't understand and asks if the gang leader is there by any chance. The guy explains it's the same psycho from yesterday, the student from Sumoon High. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices the strange movement and is immediately on alert. In a flashback, we see the henchman arriving in the room, all bloody and desperate. On the other end of the line, Young-chan hears about an armed spy and doesn't understand a thing. He yells into the phone, telling the guy to speak clearly and say what the hell is going on. The henchman just complains, saying he doesn't care about the spy and that it has nothing to do with him. And at the end of the call, all that can be heard are the sounds of a beatdown. Back at the school, Doyle asks some girls if any of them is PG Hale, but he gets annoyed when he realizes the mistake, yelling that they should have told him it was a man. Doyle ignores the warning and throws a pack of tissues to his masked friend. Jongbum can't believe the scene, saying the guy has truly lost his mind. Tired of the situation, he asks once more who the hell that kid is. He yells, saying Doyle is crazy for walking into the tiger's den like this. To shut him up, our hero simply pulls the gun's trigger. The entire gang flinches at the sound, cowering from the shot, but nothing happens, and Doyle realizes he ran out of bullets in the middle of the fight. Seeing his chance, Jongbum lunges at him, yelling that he must be desperate to die. He tries to land a blow, but Doyle spits in his face to buy some time. Disgusted by the spit, the protagonist manages to block his strike with just one hand. Jongbum is confused by the trick, wondering what he's going to pull now. With a focused look, he prepares to counter the attack with all his strength, and then he lands a devastating blow right in the enemy's stomach. With a smirk, he reveals it was all a bluff. The scene cuts, and we see two teachers finding several students' bodies on the floor. The new teacher, Ha Jungju, gets scared and suggests calling the police, but her colleague calms her down. He explains that the principal himself told them not to get involved in the students' affairs. Still, he admits this is the worst fight he's ever seen since the incident with PG Hale. To make matters worse, we're shown that the security cameras are all turned off, and the cell signals have also been jammed, leaving the school completely isolated from the world. The scene changes to a gym, where a 15-kilogram plate is placed on the bench press bar. A giant guy easily lifts 200 kilograms, intimidating everyone watching. After finishing the exercise, he grabs his bottle to drink a protein shake. He comments on how good it tastes and asks his henchmen what they had said. One of them reports they received an order for all executives to go to the school within 20 minutes, and the reason is that a spy has infiltrated Shocking Park Jinju, Ilgyung's rank 3. Someone approaches Jong Byum, praising him and calling him very talented. Everyone is impressed since he single-handedly defeated a 6th-year student. The scene flashes back to the past, where a boy introduces himself as Park Yu-chan, but Yongbyum humiliates him, asking who said they were on the same level. He just couldn't hide the rage he felt for those he saw as inferior. It's explained that he was born to rule, with the power to control everyone and everything. Then he gives a sinister smile, thinking how incredible it is to devour one of his own kind. The scene returns to the present, with Yongbyum charging forward with a direct blow at Doyle, but the protagonist easily dodges, slipping under the enemy's attack. Yongbyum is in shock after missing the strike, thinking it couldn't be possible. He gets furious, wondering why his fist couldn't reach its target. Then Doyle hits him with the dustpan, saying the difference in reach is huge. The impact of the blow snaps the dustpan handle in half. Jongbum is stunned, his face bleeding, unable to believe what's happening. And before he can react, Doyle lands a devastating blow to his chin. Doyle doesn't stop and immediately spins the broom handle, preparing to strike again. The blow lands clean on Yongbyum's chin, who feels the full force of the impact. With the impact, he is sent flying backward, and he hits the ground, screaming in pain. Yongbyum lies there, trembling with rage, unable to get up properly, but Doyle moves in again and mercilessly slams the handle right into his leg. He gets desperate and curses, wondering what the hell was going on in this place. The guy wonders where Doyle came from, as he'd never heard his name before. He remembers the full-speed strike, as if it were nothing. Then, he realizes that blow wasn't normal. It was a genuine attempt to kill him. Doyle approaches and mockingly asks if he thinks he's pretty fast. And right after, he warns that his intention was to cripple him right there. Yongbyum swallows hard, completely terrified by the protagonist's coldness. Then Donggu appears, reminding him he was already screwed from that moment on. He warns that he'll start with his leg while holding the dustpan, but suddenly Park Kang-wook shows up and says he won't be able to walk. Yongbyum is on the ground, panting, not understanding the newcomer's audacity. He's furious, wondering what the hell some nobody was saying to him. The guy can't believe someone dared to talk to him like that. Then he grits his teeth and shouts, asking if the other guy knows who he is. Back in the present, he gets up and lunges forward with a furious strike. But Park Kang-wook dodges the blow with impressive ease, effortlessly. Yongbyum yells at him to get a grip, telling him to stay out of it and know his place. Kang-wook just stares at him with disdain, letting out an indifferent grunt. And suddenly, he lands a devastating uppercut right on Yongbyum's chin. The guy starts taking a flurry of blows so fast you can't even see them. Then, Kang-wook lands another clean hit, showing his superiority in the fight. With that, he finishes with a downward hammer fist, breaking his guard. Jang Hyunwoo, who is watching everything, is in total shock at Kang-wook's strength. Yongbyum passes out instantly and collapses to the floor, completely defeated in seconds. Kang-wook just stands there, his whole crew watching him in complete silence. Blood trickles down Yongbyum's face as he remains on the floor, utterly humiliated. He starts screaming in pain and rage, while Doyle and the others just watch. But he struggles to his feet, and Kang-wook takes a step forward with contempt. Kang-wook then asks where he thinks he is, saying this place looks like a normal school. Yongbyum is panting, his face filled with hatred, unable to react. Then he turns and yells at his crew, asking why they're just standing there. Jang Hyunwoo's group is confused, looking at him with blank expressions. Then Yongbyum screams at them to get Kang-wook, cursing and telling them to attack. He keeps yelling at the guys, but no one in his crew moves an inch. Fury takes over his face, as he refuses to accept being defeated and humiliated. The scene cuts quickly to the school rooftop, showing a computer server. In another hallway, Im Jong-chan complains on his phone that those idiots aren't picking up. A student wonders what the Ilgyung school students are doing there. Another one says he heard that's Im Jong-chan and he looks really scary. The scene shows someone's feet walking calmly down the school hallway. Suddenly, the head of student affairs, Wang Ducheol, appears, telling them to stop right there. He approaches, annoyed, ordering the punks to come closer for a talk. But one of the Ilgyung students doesn't even move, letting out a purely mocking chuckle. The whole group ignores the teacher and keeps walking, leaving the man indignant at their audacity. He gets furious and yells for them to come back, calling the youths ill-mannered brats. Then Im Jong-chan stops walking, letting out a sigh like someone who's lost their patience. He turns and walks slowly toward the teacher with a very intimidating posture. The man questions him, asking for God's sake why he's doing this. But suddenly, a knife is forcefully stabbed into the floor right between them. Jong-chan grabs the teacher by the collar, shoving him violently. The other staff members nearby are completely shocked by the scene. Then he whispers a threat, telling the old man to be careful who he messes with. The atmosphere in the place grows heavy, showing the tension and danger of the moment. The teacher is paralyzed with fear, stammering that he understood the message perfectly. Startled, the wooden stick he was holding falls to the floor with a thud. The scene returns to the teacher, who's screaming in pain on the floor after being stabbed. Im Jong-chan takes a deep breath and curses the guy, asking if he has a death wish. He spits on the floor and asks his henchmen if the others still haven't answered. Then he hands the bloody knife to the guy, who is completely confused. With a cold look, Jong-chan informs him that he's the one who stabbed the teacher now. He tells the guy to take everyone's cell phones and then turn himself into the police, and he adds that it'll only be for 2.5 years, leaving the henchmen terrified. With the situation handled, Yong-chan turns and walks away menacingly. The scene cuts back to Jongbom, who spits blood on the floor, still feeling the beating. His badly injured ankle is shown, as Doyle tells him to go through rehabilitation. He warns that it's either that or he'll be in a wheelchair forever. Doyle is confused by the laughter and asks if he wants his other ankle twisted as well. But Jongbyum warns him that he doesn't know what he's done and asks if he knows who the boss is. He yells that Doyle is definitely going to die, but the protagonist thinks that's nonsense. So Doyle sighs and just asks straight out where PG Haol is. But suddenly, a hand comes out of nowhere and slaps Doyle hard across the face. Donggu panics and yells his friend's name, not understanding what's going on. Then Il-gyung's rank 3, Park Jinju, appears, asking who interrupted his workout. Donggu is in shock, because a blow like that to the head would be dangerous even for Doyle, but the protagonist simply blocks the giant strike, leaving the guy surprised. He remains calm and focused, analyzing the opponent in front of him. With a serious look, he faces the man and asks if he's PG Haol. The bodybuilder throws his tank top on the floor, getting ready to fight with all he's got. Then he puffs out his chest and confirms that he is, thinking the question was for him. But Donggu thinks it's obvious that guy isn't the boss they're looking for. The scene changes completely, taking us to the rainy port city of Busan. There, we see several bloody bodies hanging upside down in a warehouse. One of them is identified as Kang Daeochun, the fourth strongest of Nampo Urim. Someone is relaxing in a bathtub, while another person shows them a cell phone with a message. A mysterious voice asks for the target's name again, in a sinister tone. We then see the leader of Il-gyung, PG Haol, torturing someone in the darkness. Then several men in suits are waiting, until someone asks for the name Kim Doyle. The scene cuts back to the fight, and Doyle uses a cleaning spray against Park Jinju. The giant screams that his eyes are burning, not knowing what was sprayed on him. Even blinded, he attacks with a spinning blow, but Doyle dodges with ease. Then the protagonist uses a squeegee and hits the enemy square in the face. Park Jinju curses in pain and rage, completely blind and furious with the situation. The spectators fall silent, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Jang Hyunwoo is shocked to see Doyle dominate one of the big three with a cleaning kit. The bodybuilder gets angry and shouts that Doyle is a bastard who fights dirty. With that, he charges forward with a devastating blow, aiming to end the fight for good. But the punch hits a locker, tearing a hole in its metal door. Doyle keeps dodging and uses a cloth to defend against the next attack. Jinju gets irritated, calling him a mosquito that just buzzes around and dodges. He clenches his fist tightly, assuring himself that in the end, he's just a mosquito. With that, he prepares a decisive blow, but Doyle flings the cloth out like a whip. The cloth wraps around Jinju's arm, stopping his attack before impact. Doyle seizes the opening and uses the cloth to strike the giant's ribs hard. The blow breaks his stance, and he complains again that Doyle only fights dirty. Furious, he prepares to crush Doyle like a damn mosquito, but the protagonist just stands there waiting for his enemy's next move. Doyle stares him down and, with a cold look, warns that things are about to get heated. With that, he sprays the cleaner again, aiming right for Park Jinju's face. The liquid gets in his nose, and he tries to strike despite being unable to see. Doyle dodges and smashes the squeegee right on top of his head. The impact makes the big guy stagger back, completely dazed from the hit. He tries to recover, as others think Doyle must be the god of dirty tricks. The guy says he can't forgive him, asking if he knows how much protein he's had. He becomes enraged and screams, wondering if Doyle thinks he'd fall for such tricks. Then he throws Doyle's jacket and charges, feeling underestimated. The rage goes to his head as he thinks Doyle has completely looked down on him. But Doyle intercepts the attack with a punch to the face, and with a brutal blow, he launches the muscular giant into the air as if he were nothing. Jang Hyunwoo and his friend gulp, utterly terrified by the scene they just saw. Park Jinju falls to the ground, trembling in pain and cursing his defeat. He turns with hatred, yelling that Doyle is a skinny pretty boy bastard. But suddenly, Park Kang-wook comes running towards the man on the floor. Jinju barely has time to react, only seeing a blur approach. Kang-wook lands a devastating blow, smashing the guy's head into the ground with full force. The shockwave throws Jang Hyunwoo back, who falls sitting, completely bewildered. A pool of blood forms on the floor, showing the brutality of the attack he suffered. Doyle just watches the scene as the big guy lies there, bloodied. He then turns and calmly says that the mission at Il-gyung is complete. The group is in shock, commenting that he managed to defeat the fearsome PG Haol. Hyunwoo thinks this is the first time Jinju has been beaten up like this since he faced the boss, but Donggu informs him that the guy isn't PG Haol, leaving Doyle confused. He pulls out a gun and asks why he's denying it, since the guy confirmed it himself. Donggu insists he's not the boss, and tells Doyle to cut the crap. Meanwhile, Jang Hyunwoo stands there, breaking out in a cold sweat, completely in shock. The scene shifts to a delicate flower, marking the passage of time with the rain. Night falls over the school, with heavy rain pouring down on the building. Back in the hallway, Im Jong-chan and his group arrive and see the destruction. He becomes enraged and lets out a roar, cursing the situation. The next day, the scene changes to the school's much calmer anime club. Doyle and his friends find out that Professor Dukeol ended up in the hospital. A classmate explains that Im Jong-chan from Ilgyung turned the school upside down. Doyle, while eating, asks if that guy was one of PG Haeol's lackeys. He thinks that if the boss is down, everything's resolved, but Donggu denies it again. The protagonist explains he got the food from the teacher's lounge, making Donggu indignant. Doyle ignores the lecture and simply tells his friend to forget about it, but Donggu feels guilty, saying the whole mess started at Ilgyung High. He then suggests they visit the professor, but Doyle immediately refuses the invitation. Donggu tries to convince Doyle, saying it was their fault and that it's dangerous to go alone. But out of nowhere, Seol Mina appears and offers to go with them, surprising everyone. Donggu then questions what she's doing there, pointing out her outfit is for the film club. She explains that she just felt like watching some anime, so she signed up for the club. She wonders if this meeting is fate, but then Doyle points the gun at her head. He says he'll let her meet her fate, while she gets all excited about the situation. The others are shocked by the gun, and Doyle immediately says he charges for them to touch it. Donggu despairs as everyone, even Mina, lines up wanting to touch the gun. The scene changes to a hospital, showing the building's facade on a very rainy night. The rain continues to fall heavily, soaking the sidewalk and the garden outside. Inside, a woman comments that the wound wasn't deep, so it's not fatal. She continues, advising that the school principal asked him to rest there for a while. But Professor Dushiel says it was nothing, as the students' exams are coming up. He asks her to let them know he'll be back next week, trying to hide his face. The woman sighs and says he never changes, asking if he still thinks he's a young man. The woman warns him that he's not well and is just acting tough. Meanwhile, Donggu and Mina walk through the hospital, and he asks where Doyle went, but he answers his own question, saying he doesn't know, with a very worried look on his face. The scene cuts back to Doyle, who says he won't go because he doesn't like that teacher. And out of nowhere, he simply jumps out the window, sending his friend into a total panic. Mina gets annoyed with Donggu, saying the visit is pointless without Doyle. He gets all awkward from the scolding, trying to explain the reason for their visit. He then says she can leave, but she complains about having come all this way. With that, he opens the room's door, preparing to enter. Inside, the professor's wife asks how long they've been married. He takes her hand, and they both confirm it's been 20 years. She says she knows him well, and warns that bottling up the pain will only make it worse. Outside, Donggu holds the box of drinks he brought as a gift for the professor, but suddenly, Doyle appears in the hallway, also carrying a gift for the man. We're shown that the professor had punished him, making him clean the bathroom for 2 weeks. Doyle just stands there, and the professor tells him to stop dawdling and leave. But as he was leaving, the man points to a chair and asks him to wait. We see a flashback to when the professor asked if he lives with his mother and sister. He continues, saying that makes him the man of the house, and that he shouldn't be looking for trouble. Then the professor offers him a piece of paper, saying it's his phone number. He adds that he can call anytime he needs an adult around. With that, he pats Doyle on the shoulder, telling him to cheer up a bit. He finishes by saying that a man's honor is everything, and they shouldn't be ashamed. The scene returns to the present, and Doyle finally understands that it was all their fault. So he sighs and decides to just leave the drinks there and go. But as he turns the corner, he sees Donggu and Mina standing at the door to the room. Inside, the professor is crying quietly, holding his wife's hand tightly. He whispers that this is all so humiliating, unaware that people are there. Outside, the rain falls as Doyle watches the scene through the room's window. The professor holds her hand tenderly, showing his determination as a teacher. The professor laments being humiliated in front of the students he was supposed to protect. The scene cuts to Im Jong-chan, who calls the professor a sucker for asking to die. Back at the hospital, the professor cries softly, feeling like a complete failure. He wonders how he'll be able to face his students after all this shame. His wife tries to comfort him, but he says he's old enough to be their father. He turns over in bed and says he can't face any of them anymore. Outside, the three of them remain standing there, observing the professor's sadness. Doyle feels the man's pain, seeing himself as a failure for having caused the situation. Tears stream down the professor's face as he repeats that he can't face them. The scene then shifts to a residential building on a very stormy night. Someone questions how the school became such a mess, all because of one guy. We see that Im Jong-chan is on his knees, saying he has no excuses for his failure. He begs for another chance, promising he'll do whatever it takes to capture Doyle. But the boss, PG Haeol, refuses his request, saying the order of things is wrong. He says that if he really wanted to redeem himself, he would have already brought the target before him. In a cold voice, the boss warns that now is the time to take responsibility. Jung-chan immediately agrees, shouting that he'll accept any punishment and take full responsibility. With that, a pair of scissors is thrown on the floor in front of him, like a warning. The boss then orders him to bring 10 million won and leave his earlobe behind. He yells that he'll do everything the boss commanded, with a look of pure terror on his face. PG Hyo then turns and asks if the target's name was really Kim Doyle. He looks down coldly and warns that he'll give him only 3 days, and with a sinister blue glint in his eyes, he orders the man to bring Doyle to him. The scene reveals the face of the Ilgyung boss, PG Hyo, with a terrifying gaze. The scene is inside an arcade called Game Land, with bright lights flashing. Dong-gu explains he was told not to laugh when he gets hit, which is why everyone thinks he's an idiot. He tries to talk to Kim Doyle, who ignores him while Seol-mina admires his back. Dong-gu then vents, saying he wasn't always an idiot and didn't get beaten up for being stupid. The scene flashes back to him getting beaten in the bathroom for trying to snitch on a bully. The attacker even praised him sarcastically for giving him extra money. Dong-gu says he got beaten so much that he somehow ended up becoming a real idiot. Back in the present, Kim Doyle is still focused on the shooting game, and he's killing it. Seol-mina excitedly yells for him to shoot, ignoring Dong-gu, who was trying to be serious. She gets annoyed and tells the boy to get lost, saying they were on a date. Dong-gu is speechless, completely shocked by how she treated him. In a hallway, he feels like a failure for not being able to face others. He gets angry, wondering how they can just play games at such a critical moment. Dong-gu begs for Doyle's help, who coldly tells him to screw off. His eyes widen in despair as Mina keeps talking about the game in the background. Dong-gu sighs in frustration, realizing it's useless to talk to that guy. He then grabs his lunchbox, since they would only ask him for money if he stayed. With the food in his hand, he announces he's leaving and turns to go. But suddenly, Doyle calls out to him, and Dong-gu turns around, thinking his plan worked. Doyle then asks if that fried pork lunchbox was supposed to be his. Dong-gu gets furious and yells that the lunchbox is his, because he's the one who paid for it. The scene shifts to a rainy night, showing a tall, modern building. One of the guys mentions he doesn't know Doyle's address, but his friend lives there. A group of bullies surrounds a boy, demanding to know the apartment number. The boy panics, saying he's calling but doesn't know which unit he lives in. Elsewhere, a bruised young man complains on the phone about getting dragged into this mess. Suddenly, one of the attackers hits him with a hard blow to the face. The guy screams in pain, feeling the violent impact of the unexpected attack. He's thrown back by the force of the blow, falling into the middle of the rainy street. The scene cuts to a bus stop, where someone is called an idiot for no reason. The attacker yells at him to stop calling the same number and to call the guy's friends instead. Then, he kicks the guy lying in the street while several people just watch. The young man is beaten mercilessly, receiving a brutal blow that injures him even more. He despairs, wondering what the hell he did wrong to deserve such a beating. The pedestrians are shocked by the scene, whispering among themselves about the blatant violence. Seeing this, a blonde guy from the group tells everyone to mind their own business and get out of there. The bully approaches and grabs the boy's hair, pulling his head back. He then gives an ultimatum, warning the boy he has 1 hour to come back with their target. The victim panics, not understanding why he's the one who has to die in their place. A tear of pure desperation rolls down his eye, showing his complete hopelessness. He begs for someone to call the police, but the attackers tell the onlookers to back off. Suddenly, a lone figure appears in the rain, catching everyone's attention. It's Dong-gu, who swallows hard at the sight of the commotion, clearly frightened by the scene. One of the onlookers recognizes him and asks if that isn't Ma Dong-gu. Dong-gu panics when he sees who's getting beaten and stammers as he recognizes his classmate. The attacker humiliates him in front of everyone, calling Ma Dong-gu Kim Doyle's doormat. With that, Dong-gu approaches the group of bullies, walking slowly in the rain. He's already badly injured, with a bloody nose and barely able to stand the pain. One of the guys tells Jong-chan that the hostage won't cooperate and might pass out soon. Jong-chan sighs in annoyance, complaining that weaklings always make things complicated for him. Dong-gu watches him with a terrified look, not knowing what to expect from that guy. The blonde guy approaches him with a sinister look, getting his attention in an intimidating way. He crouches down and asks if Dong-gu has any idea who he's messing with. Jong-chan then brags that he even took care of a teacher and that the rumors are spreading. Dong-gu takes a deep breath, with a tired yet defiant expression. We're shown a flashback in a hospital, where we see a man covered in bandages, crying. The villain then explains that all he has to do is lure Kim Doyle there. Dong-gu remains on the wet ground, listening to the attacker ask what he can do. A tear runs down his eye as he feels helpless in this whole situation. The scene changes to a memory, where a figure questions him about being so useless. The figure scolds him, saying he acts just like his mother. Jong-chan then threatens Dong-gu, telling him to lure Doyle there in exchange for his life. But Dong-gu, even while injured on the ground, whispers that he is not an idiot. The bully doesn't understand the response and asks what he meant by that. Dong-gu clenches his fist and repeats firmly that he is not an idiot. He then glares at the villain and yells that they are the real idiots here. The other hostage freaks out, thinking Dong-gu has gone crazy from getting hit in the head too many times. At this, Jung-chan's eyes glow in a very strange and frightening way. The villain then starts laughing like a psychopath, amused by the boy's courage. Suddenly, a red light scans Dong-gu's face, as if he were a target. Jung-chan lunges at him with bizarre speed, ready to attack. Blood starts to trickle from Dong-gu's neck from a deep cut. He screams in desperate pain, feeling the enemy's brutal attack on his skin. Jung-chan grabs his face hard, telling the bastard to shut up right now. The villain then mocks him, asking if he thought they were friends just because they talked. He humiliates Dong-gu, telling the bastard to kneel and stop thinking he's hot stuff. The scene shifts to the past, where someone was warning him to stop laughing when he got hit. The bully would then grab his face forcefully, treating him with extreme brutality. We see that Dong-gu always suffered, constantly getting beaten in the school bathroom. The bullying scenes continue, showing him being kicked and assaulted relentlessly. Lying on the floor, he seemed defeated, but something different was about to happen. Back in the present, Dong-gu grabs the villain's hand, and his eyes glow blue. Jung-chan gets irritated by his audacity, asking if the kid doesn't understand Korean. He then charges with full force, yelling at the idiot to lower his eyes and his head. The blow lands squarely, sending blood flying everywhere and making Dong-gu scream in pain. The camera pans out on the rainy street as the sound of the beating continues to echo. The fallen bicycle and umbrella on the ground show the violence of the scene. The other hostage despairs, not understanding why Dong-gu decided to fight back now. The dark, rainy alley becomes the stage for this completely unexpected turn of events. With his hand in a puddle of water, he sighs, gathering strength to continue the fight. One of the attackers complains that the situation is getting really messy, while Dong-gu recovers. The blonde guy then orders his henchmen to torture the hostage if necessary to bring Kim Doyle. Even covered in blood and bruises, Dong-gu seems far from giving up the fight. He gathers his last bit of strength and manages to curse at the villain, who stands with his back turned. The guy turns around, shocked by his audacity, while Dong-gu takes a deep breath with a determined look. The scene then cuts to a quick flashback, showing someone's hands in despair. We're shown a woman sitting next to a patient in a hospital bed. More memories of bullying appear, with Dong-gu getting beat up and suffering in silence at school. Back in the present, with a furious look, he says that they are the ones to blame for everything. The rain continues to fall heavily on the stairs, making the mood even heavier. Dong-gu then questions why they are called idiots when they've done nothing wrong. He glares at the villain and asserts that they are the weird ones and the real problem here. The other hostage gets terrified and yells, begging Dong-gu to shut up once and for all. Dong-gu then declares that if they didn't exist, there wouldn't be any problem for anyone, and with a pointed finger, he concludes by saying that they are the ones who are all messed up. Jong-chan is momentarily shocked as Dong-gu screams that they are the real idiots. With that, he unleashes all his anger and frustration in a cry of pure defiance. Time seems to stop for a second, with the two of them facing off in this tense confrontation. The villain then turns away, taking a deep breath to not lose control of the situation. He pulls out a knife and complains that the boy got beaten but won't stop talking. He then lunges forward and scoffs, asking if Dong-gu thinks he's all that now. The knife falls to the wet ground, but his intention was still very clear. He then picks up the weapon and threatens to gouge out the boy's eye right there. Seeing this, the other hostage panics and screams Ma Dong-gu's name. Jong-chan prepares to attack, but suddenly he notices something very strange. Dong-gu's eye begins to glow, showing that something inside him has changed. The attacker is left breathless, sensing a different energy coming from the fallen boy. But suddenly, a toy gun shoots out a small flag, surprising everyone. Kim Doyle appears and complains, saying he asked for rubber bullets, not this. With his umbrella in hand, he calmly walks through the rain toward the fight. The big henchman gets scared and points, yelling, "That's the Kim Doyle guy." Jong-chan turns with a shocked and furious look, his eyes red with hatred. Doyle then asks Dong-gu if he swapped their phones on purpose. He picks up a phone from the ground, its screen completely shattered by the rain. In a very serious and cold tone, the protagonist wants to know who did this. He then looks Jong-chan in the eye and asks directly if he was the one responsible. Doyle surveys the scene, seeing his friend's phone lying in a pool of blood. He then warns that the guy is asking for a beating, and he's not kidding. The villain gives a mocking smile, while our hero stares him down with pure determination. Jung-chan laughs and confirms it was him, introducing himself and welcoming Doyle. But before he can finish his sentence, the protagonist's umbrella snaps in half. In an absurdly fast move, Doyle lands a devastating blow to the villain's face. He then gets into a fighting stance, making it clear that the real battle is about to begin. With a deadly glare, he warns that he can't forgive him because of the fried pork. The story takes us back in time to the Silumdong karaoke bar incident. We're told they used girls to bribe the corrupt local cops. Because of this, even the local police stayed away, and they became major troublemakers. But not long after, the entire gang was completely wiped out. It all happened on the day of the gang leader's birthday party, Lee Hocheol. The party was a huge event, with all 21 members of the group gathered together. Suddenly, the karaoke room door was opened by a mysterious figure. The scene cuts, and all 21 gang members were on the floor, seriously injured. The one responsible for this feat was just a 13-year-old boy. Covered in blood, we learn his name was Im Jong-chan. Back in the present, the henchman is shocked, unable to believe it was possible. He couldn't accept that a kid single-handedly defeated a gang feared by the police. After that day, rumors about him spread, and South Soul called him the Demon. This was Im Jong-chan, the Demon, a legend feared by all bullies. And now that same demon was getting his ass kicked, unable to even fight back. Panting, Jong-chan asks who the hell this bastard is who just showed up out of nowhere. His hand trembled so much he could barely hold the knife steady. He then accuses Doyle of drugging him, demanding to know what was done to him. In a rage, he screams that he'd never lose to a piece of trash and lunges forward. But Doyle dodges the blow and catches the knife's blade with his bare hands. With bizarre strength, he stops the villain's attack, leaving him stunned. Jung-chan tries to attack again, but the protagonist keeps holding the knife. He then screams in pure frustration, not believing what was happening. Doyle dodges and lands a brutal hit, taking advantage of the opening in his guard. The blow came from below and caught the villain by surprise, who wasn't expecting it. The punch lands squarely on his chin with a devastating and precise impact. Jung-chan flies backward, wondering why he can't dodge his blows. Doyle wastes no time and prepares his next attack, giving his enemy no chance. On the ground, the villain glares at him with hatred and asks again what he did to his body. He screams desperately, demanding to know when and how Doyle managed to do it. The sound of breaking bones echoes, showing the surreal strength of Doyle's punch. Jung-chan screams in pain, writhing on the ground as Doyle watches him coldly. Even though he's beaten, the villain questions why it's his fault if Doyle is the one who's weak. The protagonist then asks if he can't accept what's happening and if he's going crazy. He explains it's because he hasn't been beaten enough and tells him to settle this now. With a look of pure hatred, Jung-chan prepares to attack with everything he has left. He charges forward, cursing, completely blinded by rage and the humiliation of losing, but Doyle easily dodges the blow, frustrating the enemy who calls him slippery. Jung-chan tries to land a spinning strike, using all his strength in the swift motion. Doyle dodges again, and the villain gets angry, yelling at him to stop running and fight. In the blink of an eye, Doyle's fist appears in front of his opponent's face. The punch connects squarely, and Jung-chan doesn't even understand how he was hit so suddenly. He flies backward, desperately wondering why he can't dodge anything. We're told that he sees the punches, but they're so fast he can't react. He simply can't keep up in time, and takes another brutal hit from Doyle. Doyle continues the merciless beating, landing a heavy blow on his opponent. The villain is thrown back by the impact, screaming in pain from the force of the strike. He then kneels in a puddle of water, completely out of strength to fight back. Jung-chan struggles to his feet, admitting that Doyle is no ordinary guy. Doyle then remarks with a hint of mockery that the guy can really take a beating. Covered in blood, the villain trembles and can barely stand after the thrashing. But for our hero, this is great, as it means he can keep hitting him more. The other hostage freaks out, unable to believe the whole fight is over fried pork. Dong-gu just watches from a distance, swallowing hard at his friend's brutality. With a mocking gesture, Doyle beckons him to continue the fight right there. Jung-chan takes a deep breath, already at his limit and with no strength left to fight back. Doyle then approaches and asks what he should break first, considering his wishes. The two stare at each other in tense silence, with the villain's eyes showing pure terror. He's left speechless, completely defeated and humiliated by our protagonist. Seeing this, the hostage asks if he's really Jung-chan, doubting his identity. Dong-gu chimes in and says that in that case, he'll choose what to break himself. At that, Doyle prepares to attack and warns that he'll start by breaking his jaw. The scene shifts to Jung-chan's mind, who knows the blow is coming his way. He panics, realizing there's no way he can block the attack. The villain becomes desperate, as he also can't dodge or evade the strike. Doyle's fist comes flying, like a cannonball about to explode. The punch lands squarely, and Yongchan screams in pain, feeling the brutal impact. He falls to the ground, completely defeated, groaning in pain from the devastating attack. The other hostage's jaw drops, utterly shocked by the scene he just witnessed. On the ground, the villain trembles and thinks he's never seen anyone like Doyle in his entire life. He freaks out, remembering the strange feeling he had when he first saw him. With a demonic aura, Yongchan realizes Doyle isn't human, but something else entirely. The villain understands that he's a wall, an impossible barrier to overcome. But suddenly, Doyle hits him with a powerful hook, giving him no chance to defend. And with one final blow, he ends the fight, as the villain calls him a monster. Donggu watches the beatdown from afar, hearing the sound of the blows in the rainy alley. He then sees the other hostage being thrown far away after taking a hard hit. The scene cuts to a hospital, where two men are talking calmly inside a room. Back in the alley, Zhongchan's body was lying on the ground in a pool of blood. Doyle stands in front of the body, taking a deep breath after the intense fight. He then turns his face to the side in the rain, with a calm and serene look. The big hostage gets so scared that his umbrella breaks from the shock. He's terrified by the scene he saw, sweating cold and unable to say a word. At that moment, Doyle starts walking toward the group, who were frozen in fear. His eyes show a frightening coldness, making it clear he's not messing around. The scene then changes and shows us the hideout of a gang called the Tiger Crew. Inside, a real massacre had taken place, with bodies scattered all over the hallway. In the middle of all that chaos, a person was eating noodles as if nothing had happened. He explains that a gang made him an offer, and he came a long way to hear it in person. But he complains that the offer was very different from what they had agreed on over the phone. He then eats a pickled radish, chewing slowly as he considers his next move. And calmly, he explains that he cut their Achilles tendons because he found something out. It turns out they were pulling some dirty tricks, even though they had already stuffed themselves enough. The guy then glares at him and asks why he wants to get even richer. Suddenly, he stabs a chopstick into the man's leg, catching him completely by surprise. The hostage screams in desperate pain, writhing from the brutal and unexpected torture. The scene cuts to another tied-up guy who trembles all over as he hears the screams from a distance. Then the boss gives him 2 days to resolve the whole situation back in Busan. And after sorting everything out, he warns the guy that he must join their side. The gagged hostage then nods his head, frantically bobbing it up and down. The man then asks with disdain if he's being serious about the deal. The prisoner keeps nodding his head, confirming he'll do everything he's told. After a moment of silence, the boss stares at him with a sinister and intimidating look. He then puts down his noodle bowl, ending his meal abruptly. With that, he accepts the deal and tells the man to enjoy his meal. And with a sinister smile, he also wishes the guy a great day. He then turns and leaves the room, leaving the tortured prisoner behind. His boss is Kang Hyuk-cheol, the operations chief of the elite Ilgyung school. He then warns that Im Jong-chan is calling non-stop, and it seems to be very urgent. The boss picks up the phone with his blood-stained hands, showing no emotion. With that, he goes to a red room at the end of the hall to take the call. He stops in front of the door, hesitating for a second before turning the handle. On the other end of the line, a voice asks if he is really P. Ji-haeol. The scene shifts back to the alley, showing the bodies lying on the ground after the fight. P. Ji-haeol listens to everything in silence, with a look of pure evil and satisfaction. His expression changes slightly, as if he was surprised by something. Then it's revealed that Kim Doyle was the one calling him all this time. Doyle speaks calmly, saying he heard he was looking for him. The two talk in the middle of the hallway, surrounded by all the bodies on the floor. Hearing that, P. Ji-haeol cracks a psychopathic smile, showing that he likes the news. The scene shifts to a cold, rainy night, highlighting a restaurant storefront. Inside, meat sizzles on the grill as a man tries to speak with the principal. He then questions the principal, asking if it's right to just forget what happened. We're shown a flashback of the chaos, where a student from another school attacked everyone. The man insists that the media and the student's parents should know about the incident, but the principal yells at him to shut up, saying the parents at Ilgyung are worthless. He explains that most of the students there are orphans or have been abandoned. With contempt, the principal says they're people who can barely support themselves. The scene cuts to buckets catching leaks, reinforcing the idea of neglect. He then pours a drink and asks who really cares about that school. The principal claims there won't be any problems, but the other man remains very unsure. With a serious look, he warns that people who shouldn't have got involved. At this, the principal downs his drink, clearly worried about the whole situation. He concludes by saying that something very dirty and complicated has gotten mixed up in this. Suddenly, the door is kicked open, and Kim Doyle barges in. Without giving them a chance to react, Kim Doyle hurls Park Ju-hyung, who grunts in pain mid-air. Ju-young then slams onto the wet ground, hitting his head with full force, but he recovers quickly and charges forward, running toward Doyle. With his face already bruised, he faces his opponent, taking a deep breath and preparing himself. Doyle watches from above, wondering if what just happened was a judo throw. Just then, an object flies through the scene, landing outside in the heavy rain. The protagonist lands perfectly on the ground, facing Ju-hyung, who looks exhausted. We see Doyle's face up close, completely calm and focused in the middle of the fight. Ju-young breathes a sigh of relief for a second, but he's still tense from the kid's strength. He thinks, confused, that he saw the attack coming but simply couldn't react. A quick flashback shows he didn't even have time to blink before being caught. Ju-young realizes Doyle is an opponent he can't beat just by trading blows, but he believes that if he can just grab him, his brute strength on the ground will guarantee victory. With that in mind, he screams that he'll smash Doyle's head to pieces on the asphalt. Ju-hyung lunges with a powerful strike, but Doyle blocks it with a single hand. Ju-hyung struggles with all his might, trying to grab Kim Doyle with all his strength, but Doyle is faster, dodging the attack with an agile and impressive move. Even so, Ju-hyung manages to grab his shirt collar, thinking he's finally got him, but Doyle firmly grips his hand, stopping the attack instantly. He uses his enemy's momentum to sweep his legs, making Ju-hyung call him a bastard. With the big guy on the ground, Doyle lands a punch to his face, and another to his stomach. Ju-young spits blood and screams in pain, feeling the brutal impact of both hits. We see a close-up of the powerful blow, which dents the judo captain's face. Doyle then looks back coldly as his opponent's blood flies through the scene. The scene changes, and now Doyle is carrying Ju-young on his back, who calls out his name. On the staircase, he asks in a low voice about the cut on his nose. He wants to know if it will leave a scar, and Doyle replies that it probably will. The rain continues to fall heavily as they slowly climb the steps. Ju-young complains that he'll see the scar every day, and Doyle threatens to drop him. With a trembling hand, he grabs Doyle's arm and says, "This is so unfair." In a flashback, we see a beaten-up Donggu, lamenting that he's always the one who gets hurt. We're shown that he was constantly beaten, a target of relentless bullying and violence. Back in the present, Doyle reflects that no matter how hard you try, wounds always turn into scars. Ju-hyung, on the ground, repeats once more that this whole situation is so unfair to him. Overcome with rage, he lets out a furious scream, trembling with hatred in the middle of the rain. The scene then flashes back to moments before, with Doyle preparing to attack his brother. With a precise blow, he strikes Park Ju-dong's head, who doesn't see the attack coming. Ju-dong is in shock, wondering who this guy is that threw his brother out the window. Doyle then shoves Ju-dong's face, sending him flying backward. On the ground, he wonders if Doyle is trying to kill him, unable to believe the kid's violence. With his nose bleeding, he stammers and tells Doyle not to make him laugh. His eye fills with hatred, and he prepares to retaliate with everything he has. A flashback begins, and a young Kang Hyuk-cheol appears holding a gold medal. Someone tells him he's not an ordinary person, acknowledging his great talent, but he reflects that even with talent, it's hard to win, and questions if the world is fair. In the flashback, a hand is extended to him with the promise of making him someone special. Back in the present, Hyuk-cheol screams that he is a special man and shouldn't be underestimated. His gaze becomes focused, and he prepares to attack with terrifying determination. He charges, yelling at Doyle, who watches calmly from above, calling him a bastard. Doyle easily dodges the blow, moving like lightning in the rain. Hyuk-cheol continues the assault, yelling that once he catches him, the kid is done for. He thinks about focusing his attacks on Doyle's face, while the kid dodges everything. Then he plans to add a fake-out, and Doyle leans his head back. Hyuk-cheol sees what looks like an opening, a moment when his opponent's guard is down. But when he tries to pounce, Doyle grabs his wrist, stopping the attack on the spot. With a smirk, he warns that the kid is done for, certain of his victory. He finally manages to grab Doyle's shoulder and prepares for the final blow. With all his strength, he initiates a hip throw, a surefire finishing move. The judo technique is perfect, and Doyle is lifted into the air with brutal force. But Hyuk-cheol is in shock, wondering why the bastard isn't moving. He realizes that somehow Doyle simply isn't falling. It's explained that Doyle shifted his weight, dispersing the force of the blow directly into the ground. Hyuk-cheol freaks out, as this is a pro-level technique, and questions the kid's absurd strength. Suddenly, he sees Doyle's leg rise and realizes he's about to be counter-attacked. At that moment, Doyle reverses the move with a back throw, sending the big guy flying through the air. Hyuk-cheol is slammed into the ground with surreal violence, feeling the full impact. On the ground, he screams in pain, unable to believe what just happened to him. He thinks that his technique was destroyed and that he's completely incompatible with this kid. In front of him, Doyle stares him down, looking like a monster that defies logic. The scene cuts, and Hyuk-cheol thinks that he's never seen anything like this in his entire life. In great pain, he tries to get up, but his body doesn't respond properly. He remembers his brother's words and is filled with new determination. The scene flashes back to the past, with Ju-young saying he feels safe around Doyle. He offers money, Doyle asks if he's serious, and the two continue walking in the rain. Ju-young then asks if Doyle could think of them as his real friends. Back in the fight, Doyle ends it with a brutal blow right to the stomach. The scene cuts to the past, where Ju-young pleads with him, as Doyle watches in silence. In the present, the protagonist takes a deep breath, staring at Hyuk-cheol's body on the ground. He then turns and walks away from the alley, leaving the outcome of his fight behind. But suddenly, the lights of a police car illuminate everything, catching him by surprise. The officers yell at him, wondering what a student would be doing there. With his hand still bloody, Doyle stops and faces the police with a cold stare. We're shown the reason for the call, with several students passed out on the school floor. One of the officers pulls out a taser and says they received an assault complaint. With his weapon aimed, he yells for Doyle to put his hands up and walk towards them. But out of nowhere, someone lands a solid punch on one of the officers' faces. The man goes flying from the impact, and we see that a mysterious woman has appeared. In a matter of seconds, both officers are on the ground, completely knocked out. The last remaining cop panics and stammers as he asks who she is. It's teacher Ha Jung-ju, who appears with a glowing hand and asks what happened. The scene shows the police car being crumpled with a loud crash. At this, Ji-heol stretches casually, then adjusts his clothes as if nothing happened. With a sinister smile on his face, he comments on how exciting the whole situation was. His close-up look is completely insane, with blood dripping and a wide grin. On the other side, Doyle watches everything with an expression of weariness and slight disgust. Ji-heol then looks at the fallen officers and says how convenient violence is. He walks toward Doyle and asks if it's not true that it solves everything. Doyle stares at him, and Ji-heol questions why people try to stop him from having fun. With one eye glowing strangely, he doesn't understand why they would forbid him from doing something enjoyable. Then he looks at Hyuk-cheol's body and asks Doyle if he feels a connection with him. We see Hyuk-cheol's face up close, bloodied and completely unconscious on the ground. With open arms, Ji-heol proposes that they become friends and improve their skills together. He keeps talking, promising that Doyle will receive the full support of their power. To explain further, he mentions the Yakuza and says that money justifies any violence. With a terrifying smile, he concludes that more violence generates more money and invites him to join. Without mincing words, Doyle looks the man in the eye and warns that the guy on the ground is done for. Ji-heol is confused, and suddenly Doyle's fist flies towards him. The blow is so brutal that Ji-heol's head is torn off, flying through the air. Doyle finishes the strike, leaving behind only the headless body of his bizarre enemy. In a quick flashback, Doyle states that he has taken the life of a powerful man before. The scene then cuts back to the principal, who wonders what kind of scum got involved in this. He admits he doesn't know who the kid is, but it's obvious he's dangerous. We're shown his name is Im Chun-sok, the principal of the troubled Il-gyeong school. In his memories, he appears sucking up to a congressman, showing he has important connections. But even so, he doesn't know how to handle a problem of this magnitude. He remembers a threat he received, warning him about the attack and telling him to keep quiet. The principal reveals that Doyle has support from national security and stole classified information. Back at the fight, Ji-heol simply picks up his head and puts it back in place. With a sinister smile, he asks if Doyle really doesn't want to be his friend. The two stare at each other in silence, with an absurd tension in the rainy air. Doyle loses his patience and curses the guy for being so annoying and asking that again. He then makes it very clear that he's not an ordinary student like everyone thinks. The scene changes to a building at night, and a voice questions if murderers are really that bad. In a flashback, we see Ji-heol next to a crib, saying that everyone dies someday. The baby's room looks calm and normal, with a rocking horse and a few books. We're shown a quote from Albert Bundy, who says he just gave death a new time. It's then explained that Bundy was a famous serial killer who killed 30 women. Suddenly, the baby in the crib starts crying loudly, without stopping for a second. With the crying, the baby bottle ends up falling and rolling across the baby's room floor. A woman then panics and desperately screams young Ji-heol's name. He turns around and thinks it would be so cool to be a being with power over death, but he's reminded that, in the end, Albert Bundy paid the price for all his crimes. The scene cuts to a police station, where a police officer asks why he was crying. The officer questions him for trying to kill his brother, and Ji-hyul tries to justify himself. With a terrifying coldness, he says his younger brother, Jin-ho, didn't listen to him. We see the badly injured baby in the bed, and Ji-hyul says his brother was the one in the wrong. In the end, it's revealed that Ji-hyul was punished by juvenile law for his actions. It's then explained that while Ji-hyul paid for his actions, not everyone in the world does. We're shown the case of a Yakuza leader, suspected of taking the lives of 7 people. He was acquitted, and then we see the case of an important congressman's son. The guy ran over and killed a girl, but the news suddenly changed the story. Seeing this, Ji-hyul found his life's purpose: to have money, fame, and power. He decided he would become a special being who controls the fate of everyone else, someone who determines people's time of death. Basically, he wanted to be a god. Back in the past, he asks his brother if he knows why he tried to kill him. We see little Jinho's face, which has a very strange birthmark on it. Ji-hyul then gets closer and reveals the reason is that Jinho looks too much like him. With a sinister smile, he says the world only needs one of them, and his brother understands. The narration concludes that the boy's true ambition was to become a kind of god. In the present, Ji-hyul declares himself a special being, above all others. Doyle just scratches his ear, completely fed up with the villain's bullshit. With no patience for more talk, he lunges forward and lands a solid punch on the freak, but the punch is blocked mid-air, with Doyle firmly gripping his fist. Ji-hyul says he understands even less what Doyle did, completely confused by the situation. He keeps wondering how that's possible, not believing what he's seeing. Then he questions how Doyle managed to move before he even did anything. Doyle asks if he hit his head and simply says he's faster. He then says that, anyway, he was just messing with him a bit. With a serious look, he comments that it's been a while since he met someone like him. Ji-hyul replies that he has overcome and defeated many strong people in his life. In a flashback, we see him standing amidst several bodies, showing his power. Another scene shows him winning a fight in the ring, always on top of others. It's shown that he left a trail of bodies to get where he is, but he admits with wide eyes that this is the first time something like this has happened. Doyle tells him to shut up, warning him not to say any more nonsense. Suddenly, Ji-hyul appears behind him and says he finds him very interesting. With that, he attacks with a surprise blow, trying to catch Doyle off guard. Ji-hyul's eyes widen in pure shock, unable to believe what he's seeing. Doyle calls him an uncreative bastard and asks if copying others is all he knows how to do. And then he lands a powerful blow, completely shattering Ji-hyul's defense. The blow leaves the freak stunned for a second, with Doyle just watching him. But with a bizarre smile, Ji-hyul says Doyle is indeed very interesting. With that, he lunges forward again, with a strike that looks more like a cutting blade. The protagonist is startled by the speed, and manages to dodge just barely. The fight becomes frantic, with Doyle dodging and blocking the sequence of blows. Ji-hyul moves like a blur, attacking Doyle from all sides without stopping. But Doyle finds an opening, and prepares a direct blow to end the fight. But Ji-hyul manages to block the attack, with a smirk on his face. The protagonist then wonders how he managed to dodge it, looking quite surprised. With a little laugh, Ji-hyul shows that the tables have turned, and now he's getting serious. He takes the chance and throws Doyle to the ground with brutal force. On the ground, Doyle realizes that Ji-hyul's power and speed are only increasing. Doyle realizes that the longer the fight lasts, the more his abilities increase. With a circular motion, Ji-hyul attacks with a strike so fast it looks like a whip, but the protagonist dodges underneath it, evading the attack with incredible agility. He thinks Ji-hyul's speed is a natural talent, something truly out of the ordinary. At that, he reflects that he never expected to find an opponent like this in the middle of Korea. Ji-hyul then gives a smirk, enjoying the challenge Doyle represents. He charges forward again, running towards Doyle to start another assault. The first blow comes with full force, aiming for the protagonist's face with surreal speed. Doyle realizes the speed has increased again, and that the guy is truly extraordinary. But he notices the attack patterns are shallow, focused only on pure speed. He sees that the guy always starts with 3 consecutive strikes, all with his left hand. With this, he figures out the real danger is hidden in the right-hand strike. Doyle just thinks the opponent's strategy is too superficial and easy to read. So, when the right-hand strike comes, he vanishes from in front of Ji-hyul, who is left shocked. With his eye glowing red, he asks if Doyle doesn't find a being like him interesting. Doyle is surprised, realizing the final blow was a left-hand strike. With a look of hatred, Ji-hyul attacks and yells that nothing can stop him from winning. He imagines himself as a god, controlling everyone's fate like puppets. With a sinister smile, he declares that becoming a superior being is his destiny. But Doyle faces him with a look of pure mockery and challenges him to bring it on. He says the trash talk is embarrassing and asks why he acts that way. With that, Doyle stops the blow in midair, leaving P.G. Hale completely shocked by the scene. Ji Hale doesn't understand how, and Doyle asks if he really thinks he can do whatever he wants. Doyle says he's not ordinary, but his power level is just average. Then he tells him to go beyond, because that is his true level of strength. As his hand is being crushed, Ji Hale wonders what the hell he means by go beyond. Suddenly, Doyle vanishes from his sight, moving at an absurd and impossible speed. Ji Hale is left reactionless and realizes he can't see anything with his left eye. Completely lost and in shock, he wonders what the hell just happened there. A voice in his head then tells him the truth. In the end, he's nothing. With a devastating blow, Doyle yells and tells the freak to shut the hell up. Ji Hale's vision goes dark, and he sees himself standing on the palm of a giant hand. He's paralyzed with fear, feeling completely powerless before that presence. Suddenly, Ji Hale's head is pierced by spikes, symbolizing his defeat. In the blink of an eye, his body is completely destroyed and dismembered in the air. The scene changes, and a guy asks another if this is Chief Park's workplace. We see a badly beaten man, and we discover that P.G. Hale has already started to act. We are introduced to Rank 2 Yu Jong-suk, who can't contact the chief. He warns that getting involved with Doyle will cause a lot of trouble and mess for everyone. But he guarantees that as long as he's in Seoul, Doyle will take care of everyone. But when they arrive, they find the police officers down on the ground, and they don't understand. Seeing the scene, Doyle just takes a deep breath, tired of so much fighting and trouble. The guy with glasses approaches the alley and sees Doyle standing there in the rain. The guy with yellow glasses is in shock, seeing P.G. Hale's completely wrecked body. In disbelief, he stammers P.G. Hale's name, trying to understand what happened. Doyle then turns and faces the newcomers with a cold, calculating gaze. Suddenly, the leader of Nampo Urim, Ju Ha-young, appears and asks what this is. The scene cuts to a random building, where the rain keeps pouring down relentlessly. Inside, a hallway is filled with fallen students, all defeated in a nasty fight. Jong-suk sees their Chief Park's men and notes that the Il-gyung crew was cruel. Looking at the state of Ji Hale's body, he concludes the damage was permanent. He then calls out to his leader, who's lying in the middle of the room, resting peacefully. The leader wonders who the kid was that could do such damage to Ji Hale. At this, Jong-suk questions if it was the right call to send him after Doyle, but the chief remains relaxed, lying with his hands behind his head, saying nothing. He then says, "There's no reason to rush," telling the boy to take it easy. The scene changes, and now we see the front of a police station in the middle of the night. There we find out that a corrupt cop named Park Chung-sik's phone has been hacked. The cop is furious, phone in hand, wondering who the bastard was. He receives messages demanding a thorough investigation into the crimes at Il-gyung High. The hacker then warns that they've sent a list of bribes, along with videos and photos. The message ends with a very clear order, which sounds more like a direct threat. Officer Park Chung-sik is pissed off by the message and wonders who the hell the bastard is. Meanwhile, Ju Ha-young lights a cigarette and says this kid is the real deal. He says that if Doyle keeps this up, they're bound to meet eventually. The scene shifts to the school, and Seol Mina desperately yells that the king is already leaving. She and Dong-gu confront Jang Hyun-woo, who tells the two losers to get out of his way. Just then, two guys show up, sucking up to Hyun-woo, who thinks he's the king of the South Side. But a flyer circulating around the school says that Kim Doyle is the one in charge of Seoul now. The notice says anyone who does wrong will be hunted down mercilessly by Kim Doyle. Two students complain that school life sucks with the new order. With the new rules, they feel like there's no place for them at Sumoon High anymore. Seol Mina complains that nobody checks social media, and that flyers are outdated. Park Kang-wook and Ju Young-chol lament that their positions have been taken by Doyle. The king of the South Side, Jang Hyun-woo, has a look of pure hatred on his face. He covers his ears and lets out a scream of rage, refusing to accept the new situation. The next day, the scene changes to a quiet neighborhood with the morning sun shining. Doyle tells Dong-gu that his performance bonus is already in his locker. Dong-gu thanks him, saying life has been happier since his friend arrived. We're shown that he can now take pictures and enjoy school with his friends. He can't believe it's real, but Doyle says he does it all for the money and tells him to shut up. Dong-gu reflects that it was a series of absurd events and that he never expected it. We see that Doyle sent a picture of the defeated Ji Hale and demanded payment. Dong-gu even asks if the photo is photoshopped, and Doyle replies that it would have been easier. With a satisfied smile, Dong-gu finally feels safe and at peace at school. He thinks to himself and admits that Kim Doyle is truly an incredible guy. To avoid being a burden, he decides he needs to prepare for their next step. With an excited look, he asks if the next step is for him to learn how to fight. Doyle stops eating and asks, confused, what this next step is all about. The scene changes, and Wee Seok-hyun, rank 5, finds out that PG Hale has been taken care of. He tells his crew that if it's true, it's their turn to act. But one of the guys says it's just a rumor about some kid who plays at Conquering Nations. One of the guys says that Psycho, PG Hale, is no pushover. He remarks that the guy isn't easily defeated and asks someone named Dong Yuk. But Dong Yuk is all beaten up, kneeling on the ground with his body covered in marks. Out of nowhere, he gets hit in the back, falling face first into the dust. Confused, Seok-hyun yells at him, telling the kid to stop asking stupid questions. The scene then shows a baseball rolling across the dirt ground. With a look of disgust, Seok-hyun orders the boy to fetch the ball for him now. Dong-hyuk gulps and agrees to the order, stuttering in fear. He gets up and picks up the ball, while Seok-hyun laughs at how pathetic he is. With a trembling hand, he hands over the ball and Seok-hyun tells him to go back to his spot. It's revealed that the circle on the ground is a reserved seat, just to humiliate him. As he walks back, the others mock him, saying he was born to be a loser. Seok-hyun continues, blaming it on his parents and laughing at the whole situation. Dong-hyuk stands still in the circle, silently enduring all the humiliation. Suddenly, a voice asks if his parents really raised a retard. The boy remains silent, standing in the middle of the humiliating circle. Seok-hyun turns to him mockingly and asks if he doesn't agree with the insult. Seeing no response, he gets annoyed and calls him a bastard for not saying anything. With a look of pure hatred, he becomes furious at the boy's lack of reaction. Then he throws a baseball with all his might, aiming right for his head. The boy sees the ball coming fast and tries to shield himself from the imminent impact. But suddenly the ball stops in midair and he screams in fright, not understanding. We're shown that the ball was caught by the sure hand of Kim Doyle. Doyle comments that the throw surprised him, while Dong-hyuk stares up at him from the ground. The boy stays on the ground, recovering from the shock, and looking at his savior. Doyle then faces the gang of bullies with a look of utter contempt. Seok-hyun asks who they are, and if they're from the rival school, Sumoon High. Without warning, Doyle throws the ball back, hitting Seok-hyun square in the mouth. He falls backward, knocked out, and his girlfriend screams in despair at the sight. Outraged, she stands up and calls Doyle a bastard, ready to fight back. Doyle hands his tray to Dong-gu, who asks if he should hold it. At that moment, the bully's girlfriend is smitten, thinking Doyle is very handsome. The rest of the gang approaches, and one of them wonders who the good-looking guy is. A guy with a shaved head glares at him and asks if Sumoon High has gone crazy. He tries to intimidate Doyle, who just adjusts his suit, ignoring the provocation. Suddenly, Doyle hits the guy on the head with a chopstick, and the guy doesn't understand the move. With a single blow, he brutally slams the bully's head into the ground. The other gang members are in shock, seeing their friend on the ground and the boy injured. A blonde guy is startled by the scene and lets out a scream of panic without even blinking. He charges forward, yelling and asking how Doyle has a gun in Korea. Doyle dodges the attack and quickly puts him in an arm lock. He then slams the guy's head on the ground, who spits from the force of the impact. The aggressor is left breathless, coughing and trapped in Doyle's arms, unable to react. Doyle then grabs another guy and violently smashes his head against the wall. To end the chaos, he points the gun at the blonde guy's back, who is shocked. Without hesitation, Doyle shoots the guy in the knee, who drops instantly from the force of the shot. The aggressor screams in pain on the ground, cursing and writhing from the nasty wound. He gasps for air and warns that Doyle is a psycho for doing something like this. But the protagonist doesn't give a damn about his talk and fires again to intimidate him. The other two are terrified and scream at him to drop the gun and stop this madness. Doyle coldly refuses, telling them to come at him all at once because they're annoying him. A gunshot echoes through the alley, and one of the attackers screams as he's hit. The girl is completely swooning over the scene, while Seok-hyun wonders who the bastard is. He questions where the guy came from and why the hell he's doing this. Seok-hyun asks if he's an assassin from Ilgyung, but gets shot in the process. With the attackers on the ground, Doyle calmly starts walking out of the alley. But suddenly a huge guy appears, yelling that Boo Seok-jun sent him to get Ji-hyol. Doyle turns around, confused, and asks who the hell the man in front of him is. With his mouth already bleeding, the big guy stammers, surprised by the student's audacity. Furious, he yells, demanding to know why he did it, and charges at Doyle. Doyle is silent for a moment, then tells the guy to look down. The big guy is confused by the order and asks what there is to see. Then, Doyle reveals the gun is fake, and the guy calls him a bastard. But he lands a powerful uppercut that knocks the man out instantly on impact. Dong-gu watches everything, and Doyle reveals that the next step is Seok-dong High. With a confident smile, Donggu seems very excited about their new plan. Doyle approaches the fallen guy, the fake gun still in his hand. The man asks why he did it, trying to understand the reason for the attack. With a look of contempt, Doyle answers with a single word, calling him a pig. The scene cuts to the school emblem, and the extermination of Seokdong finally begins. 2 months later, the scene is a sunny, quiet playground. We see Kim Doyle on a bench, noting the weather has finally warmed up. Just then, Park Jinju shows up, fanning himself and asking if he isn't hot. Doyle complains, telling him to stop calling him boss all the time. He asks how Jinju managed to transfer to Sumoon High, showing his ID badge, but Jinju just smiles and says he's there because Doyle is there. We're shown a flashback of him begging someone, insisting he needs to stay close to Doyle. Back in the present, Doyle finds this weird, but Jinju tells him not to feel pressured. He explains his logic, saying that a strong person naturally becomes the boss. Jinju continues his speech, claiming that a man's instinct is to aim for Mount Tai. He recalls his former leader PG Haeol, thinking he was the highest mountain. But after Doyle defeated him, Jinju was finally able to see the truth. He realized there's an even bigger and stronger mountain than his old boss. Doyle listens to all this with no reaction, just cleaning his ear, completely confused. He then wonders to himself why this guy hasn't been arrested yet. The scene cuts to a prison, showing that Im Jong-chan and the others have been locked up. Doyle then texts a police officer, asking why Park Jinju wasn't with them. It's explained that Jinju was released because the investigation found nothing on him. The guy was just a musclehead, with no involvement in Il-gyung's crimes. Back in the present, Jinju bows and begs to be accepted, promising his loyalty. Doyle sighs and reluctantly accepts, which makes the big guy ecstatic. Just then, Seol Mina appears, complaining that it suddenly got hot and she's sweating. Doyle stares at her, thinking it was about time she finally showed her face around here. She then asks who wants to wipe her sweat, and Jinju immediately offers. But the girl gets annoyed and punches him, yelling at him to get out of her sight. Doyle watches the scene, wondering if it would be easier to just kill everyone and leave the country. Meanwhile, a trembling Donggu arrives and asks if the 10 minutes are up yet. The boy accuses Doyle of lying, questioning what this training has to do with fighting. We're shown that the first lesson was to train his body non-stop for 2 months. Donggu gets desperate, yelling that he still hasn't learned any real techniques. Donggu continues training and asks if this will really make him good at fighting. Doyle just looks at the stopwatch on his phone, seeing that time isn't up. Coldly, he tells the boy to shut up and keep exercising without complaining. The scene changes to Donggu in the bathroom, staring at his phone, shocked by a 6 million won deposit. Doyle then explains that the next step is to take down Seokdong High for that money. The boy is shocked and asks to talk later, as he can't concentrate, but Doyle replies that there's no reason to adjust to his bathroom schedule. Donggu falls silent, and Doyle warns him that Seokdong High will be much tougher. He says it's a rule that later enemies are always stronger, which freaks Donggu out. Doyle ignores his despair and continues his explanation bluntly. He warns that moving with a partner who only gets in the way will be much harder. Doyle then reminds him that he promised to train him to death for these 2 months, and with a serious look, he simply tells Donggu to prove his worth. The boy doesn't understand, so Doyle explains what he means. He tells Donggu to prove he's not a liability, terrifying the kid. Doyle then reveals the mission's target, a guy named Park Kang-wook, leaving Donggu confused. He explains that with the Judo twins gone, Kang-wook has become the strongest at Sumoon. Donggu's mission is simple. He needs to become the new boss of the school. The boy imagines himself as the top dog, Ma Donggu, and Doyle says that if he succeeds, in 1 week, they can wipe out Seokdong High for good. The gossip spreads quickly, and a student runs in shouting that Donggu challenged Kang-wook. Another comments that he's been hanging out with the new student and must have gone completely crazy. They ask where the fight will be, and a nerdy kid says everyone is in the auditorium. The crowd gets hyped and runs to see the fight, already shouting for popcorn. In the auditorium, a crowd forms around Kang-wook and Donggu, ready for the show. Donggu faces his giant opponent, his fighting stance shaky with fear. Kang-wook gets annoyed, thinking these guys are screwing with him again. Elsewhere, Ju Young-chol hears about the fight and can't believe it. He looks at a poster with Kim Doyle's face, the new student at Sumoon High. His henchmen mention the rumor that Doyle defeated PG Haeol, but they think it's a lie. Elsewhere, a sinister-looking man holds up a paper with a mocking smile. He remarks that this PG Haeol guy was truly in a league of his own, very powerful, but he says he doesn't know how. But the guy ended up in a wheelchair, completely broken. It's explained that he retired, and that the National Federation might be behind it. The man then laughs, finding it impossible that some idiots from Sumoon beat the guy. He says that either way, there are traitorous rats everywhere. Furious, he throws his phone hard against the door, showing his irritation. The device shatters on the floor, sending pieces flying everywhere. He then opens the door, saying it doesn't matter if it's in Southwest Seoul or the Northwest, he will find all the traitors who are hiding. The man faces the group and calls someone named Park Sang-sik a rat, right to his face. He questions if the guy had the audacity to betray the boss's name to do business. One of the henchmen, with red hair, is startled and doesn't know what to do, but he quickly becomes enraged and yells for everyone to get the intruder at once. The man stands still as the others fall to the ground, easily defeated by him. One of the henchmen tries to attack, but the mysterious man stops him with a precise strike. He stands up amidst the chaos, cursing with hatred for being betrayed by his men. With absurd speed, he appears behind another guy who is in complete shock. In a swift motion, he finishes the henchman with a fatal blow, displaying his strength. Blood splatters on the floor, but the fight continues as the other henchmen charge. With a sadistic smile, he lands a violent blow, showing he's having fun. He clears the room with no problem, taking down all the traitors who dare to face him. The man advances with a psychopathic look, ready to finish off the remaining enemies. A guy tries to use a hammer, but he's faster and hits him with several blows. He dodges a bat and finishes off the hammer guy all at the same time. In the midst of the confusion, he manages to grab the fallen hammer, turning the tables. Now armed, he faces the last enemy, preparing for the final blow of the fight. The redhead is terrified, clutching the bat and trembling with fear of what's to come. He screams in desperation and attacks with all his might, but the man is ready to counter. With brutal force, he shatters the enemy's bat using the hammer he picked up. He finishes the last traitor with a spinning blow, sending blood flying everywhere. The enemy's body falls lifelessly, and the mysterious man holds the bloody hammer. Tired, he looks at the bodies and wonders if it's worth living by betraying others' names. He then sees the poster of Kim Doyle and swears he will crush that bastard. It's revealed that his name is Jang Chun-sik, the second strongest at Seokdong High. The scene returns to the Sumoon auditorium, where the crowd watches the fight in silence. The crowd is shocked by what they're seeing, while Doyle just watches calmly. Someone's hand appears, dripping blood onto the floor, showing the fight's outcome. Park Kang-wook is panting and furious, yelling that they're messing with him. The camera then shows Donggu on the floor, completely defeated and covered in blood. Even though he's a bloody mess, Donggu starts to get back on his feet, his nose bleeding badly. The crowd is shocked, amazed that he can still stand. We see a replay of the brutal hit he took, a blow that should have ended it. Kang-wook struck with full force, showing no mercy for his opponent. But even after a beating like that, the kid refuses to stay on the ground. Kang-wook can't believe it and asks how he's still able to get up. Furious, he curses at Donggu, calling him a bastard for his persistence. Donggu then wipes the blood from his face and gets into his stance, ready to continue. His opponent grinds his teeth in rage and screams at him, his patience wearing thin. He lunges forward, yelling at Donggu to stay down for good. Kang-wook attacks again, but the kid dodges and moves inside the punch. The blow still lands squarely, and he feels the impact on his face. Kang-wook scoffs at his slow punch and lands a hard blow to his gut. He keeps hitting him, asking what Donggu gains by getting up again. The kid spits blood, feeling the weight of the beating, but he refuses to give up. Even while taking a severe beating, Donggu doesn't look away, showing his determination. With that, Kang-wook lands a devastating blow that echoes throughout the auditorium. Ju Young-cheol watches the scene, worried about his friend Donggu's condition. The boy finally falls to the floor, and it looks like the fight has come to an end. The scene cuts to a flashback, with Young-cheol asking if he learned to fight from Doyle. Donggu says he's trying his best because he can't depend on Doyle forever, but Young-cheol doesn't get it and questions if it's really a problem to rely on him a little. He continues, saying that each of them originally had their own role in life. It's explained that Doyle was born as Doyle, and they were born as themselves. Back in the fight, Donggu starts to get up again, dripping blood onto the floor. The crowd goes wild, wondering how he hasn't broken any bones yet. The other students can't believe this is the same Ma Donggu, the school's punching bag. Donggu gets into his stance, while Kang-wook is already out of breath from hitting him so much. He thinks the kid can barely control his own body, yet he's still standing. Kang-wook gets angrier, wondering why the bastard keeps staring at him. Kang-wook gets pissed, thinking Donggu is still the same weakling he's always been. He remembers that without the transfer student, the kid can't do anything on his own. With a look of hatred, he realizes the kid is completely out of his mind. He then scoffs, thinking the idiot believes being brave will solve anything. Dong-gu firms his stance, but Kang-wook warns him he won't get up again. With that, he charges at the boy with everything he has, screaming that he's going to knock him out. The blow lands squarely, shattering Dong-gu's teeth with the violent impact. But Dong-gu tries to counter with a punch, which his opponent easily dodges. In a swift counterattack, Kang-wook lands a brutal blow right to his midsection. The boy spits blood, feeling the immense pain from the attack he just took. Ju Young-chul and his friends scream his name, desperate at the sight. With that blow, Dong-gu finally hits the floor, and it looks like the fight is over for good. Doyle watches from a distance, observing the situation with a serious and calm expression. Kang-wook approaches the fallen body and starts kicking the boy without mercy. The cowardice continues as he stomps on the already defeated Dong-gu on the ground. Kang-wook kicks him with hatred and yells at him not to even try to move up in life. He repeats the warning with more rage, telling the bastard to stay in his loser place. Ju Young-chul watches it all, while Kang-wook keeps screaming, completely out of control. The bully stands in front of the body, thinking he's the great victor of the fight, but Dong-gu doesn't give up and starts to get up again, even while bleeding heavily. Kang-wook is shocked and starts cursing the boy, unable to believe what he's seeing. He finally snaps, screaming that the kid is annoying and doesn't know his place. Suddenly, Kang-wook starts to stagger, showing that he's also at his limit. He turns to Dong-gu's friends and challenges all of them to a fight, full of arrogance. Ju Young-chul watches the scene and seems to finally understand what's happening. He remembers his philosophy, that Doyle was born Doyle, and they were born as they were. Dong-gu reflects on this conversation, thinking about what those words meant to him. He then accepts the truth, telling himself that Doyle is Doyle, and they are them. Young-chul realizes his friend knows he can't be Doyle, but he doesn't care. With a battle cry, Dong-gu charges forward, shouting, "Where do you think you're going, you coward?" Kang-wook is startled by the boy's charge and yells at him to stop immediately. The crowd watching the fight is completely confused, totally surprised by the scene. He then warns that the fight isn't over yet, and that he shouldn't have run away. But Kang-wook looks terrified, as if he's seeing a ghost. Filled with rage, he grinds his teeth and curses the bastard, unable to believe his resilience. He charges, asking if Dong-gu is some kind of zombie since he just won't go down. Kang-wook screams for him to just die already and prepares a punch with all his strength. The blow lands squarely on the boy's face, an attack that seemed final. But to everyone's surprise, Dong-gu cracks a smile, even while covered in blood. Kang-wook is in shock and wonders if the guy has gone crazy for smiling. In an incredible reflex, Dong-gu dodges the next punch, leaving the bully stunned. He stares at the floor, injured but focused, preparing for his next move. The scene cuts to him asking Doyle how he could possibly beat Park Kang-wook, but Doyle corrects him, saying it's not how, but that he definitely will. We're shown that Doyle stated with certainty that he would defeat Park Kang-wook. Kang-wook lands a heavy blow, but Dong-gu stands firm, his legs just trembling. He then gets angry at the boy's gaze and asks what the hell that look is on his face. Kang-wook yells that it's not the look of someone who's about to get their ass kicked. We're told that in evenly matched fights, willpower is the deciding factor. Doyle then explains that the fight would be decided by each fighter's strength and will. Dong-gu was prepared for this, but Kang-wook wasn't, so all he has to do is endure. The strategy works, and Dong-gu finally lands a punch on the bully's face. Doyle had predicted that he would have trouble responding to punches after a while. Kang-wook feels the strength leaving his legs, shocked by the situation. Doyle knew the taunts would make Kang-wook waste his energy recklessly. With his guard down, Dong-gu takes the opportunity and lands a hook with all his might. He knew that eventually, even just standing would become a difficult task. Kang-wook can't take it anymore, and is panting, unable to even breathe properly. The prediction was that he'd become a punching bag, going through absolute hell. And so, the boy lands the final blow, turning the tables in an impressive way. At that moment, Dong-gu lands a devastating uppercut with all the force from his training. The bully's friends are left with their jaws on the floor, shocked by the fight's turnaround. We're told that all the strength he had built over the last few months would be unleashed all at once to finish off Park Kang-wook without mercy. Dong-gu then lands another clean hit, catching his opponent completely by surprise. Kang-wook falls to the ground, cursing, and the boy moves in to end the fight for good. Doyle had explained that winning with brute force alone would be difficult, so the strategy was different. The real secret was to have a willpower fueled by physical endurance. With that, Dong-gu starts landing multiple punches, breaking his enemy's posture. The sequence is brutal, making the bully bleed and retreat with each new blow. The exchange is intense, but now Dong-gu is the one in control. He remembers Doyle's advice, When you want to give up on everything, just scream and endure one more time with all your soul. With a deafening roar, he unleashes his energy, ready for the final attack. He remembers the past, all the bullying, and uses it as fuel to win. Donggu unleashes all his rage, landing a relentless sequence of punches. He remembers when Kangwook used him as a chair and forced him to eat trash, and also all the times he was humiliated, getting beaten without being able to do anything. With that, the boy lands a final, powerful punch right in the bully's face. He stares down at his fallen enemy, with a determined and powerful look in his eyes. We are shown that with this willpower, he can finally fight back. Donggu then charges forward, ready to end the fight once and for all. Ju Youngcheol watches the scene, shocked by the strength his friend is showing. He then remembers Donggu saying that for him, it was enough to just be himself. The entire audience falls silent, unable to believe the incredible comeback they just witnessed. Donggu seizes the opening and lands a devastating blow to his opponent's head. With his eyes shining with power, he screams in fury, releasing all his energy. Kangwook finally collapses to the ground, completely defeated and bloodied. Donggu prepares to take the final step and complete his revenge. The bullies gang watches it all, in complete shock and unable to react. With this final step, not just Kangwook, but all of his lackeys fall one by one. At that, Ju Youngcheol and the others run to celebrate with the school's new champion. Youngcheol smiles in relief, as a new day has finally dawned for all of them. Then, Donggu is lifted onto their shoulders, shouting and announcing his great victory. He is now officially the new top dog of Sumoon High, the #1. His name is Ma Donggu, the boy who overcame his fears and became a legend. The scene shifts to the Russian branch of Blackhead, a cold and mysterious place. There, someone is typing quickly on a computer, sending secret data somewhere. A pink-haired woman then informs her captain that she sent everything to someone named Cox. She seems very focused, typing non-stop to complete her mission. Back with Doyle, he wonders about this captain and is grateful for the help he received. Donggu is amazed by the wireless earbuds, thinking they're incredible. He then asks where Doyle got them and who he was talking to earlier. Suddenly, the kid stops and asks where they are even going. Donggu's head is spinning. He doesn't even know which question to ask first. Doyle then recalls his promise to take down Seokdong High in 1 week. With that, he opens the door to a salon, preparing for the next step of his plan. Inside, a guy is forcing another to put a lit cigarette on his own tongue. The man being forced turns and asks who Doyle is. Several other shady-looking guys stare at the pair, ready to start trouble. But Doyle replies coldly, saying he's a man who keeps his promises. In seconds, Doyle takes down all the henchmen, leaving the salon in silence. The last man standing is in shock, wondering what the hell kind of guy this is. It's revealed that he is John Jong-soo, rank 4 of Seokdong High. But Donggu charges in and starts mercilessly beating the other enemies. The big guy is startled by his fighting style, finding it very bizarre. Doyle then approaches and bluntly asks if he wants to live or die. The guy is confused, wondering why he's being asked that out of nowhere. Then, Doyle warns that if he wants to live, he'd better listen very carefully. He begins to explain, saying he has 2 things to ask the enemy. The first is about the new illegal betting site that targets younger people. Doyle orders him to hand over all the proof and the names of those involved in the scheme. With a gesture, he installs an app on the guy's phone to receive the data. Jung-soo is terrified, wondering how Doyle knows about the secret site. Without giving him time to breathe, Doyle moves on to the second part of the conversation. He tells the guy to deliver a direct message to his boss, someone named Wang Kwakui. Doyle then gives the final message, telling his boss to meet him at Sumoon and Neil. Donggu repeats the order and tells the guy to surrender to the school's new boss. He warns that if they do it right, there will be no bloodshed. The big guy wonders if the one with glasses is really the boss, imagining how strong he must be. But then Donggu panics and tries to talk to Doyle, who doesn't understand. He questions if Doyle really thinks this Wang Kwakui guy will show up just because they told him to. The kid totally freaks out, wondering why Doyle would say something like that. Doyle then reveals his true plan, announcing there's going to be a gang war. Donggu panics even more, yelling that a gang war is something a psychopath would do. Doyle explains that he's tired of fighting one by one, with the conflict never ending. That's why he's decided it's time to destroy Seokdong High all at once. The kid yells that Doyle has no idea how many people are there, and that they're all going to die. But Doyle replies coldly, saying that's not Donggu's problem to worry about. Losing patience, he turns and knocks out the big guy so he won't have to listen to his freaking out anymore. Doyle then glares at the fallen guy and tells him to bring Wang Kwakui no excuses. Doyle asks if the guy is serious, but Jong-soo gets annoyed by his laughter. He explains that it's the first time anyone has asked to meet their boss. The scene then takes us to a rainy warehouse in a remote part of the city. Inside, a man is terrified by what he sees, even pissing himself in fear. He looks up, horrified, and wonders if the man in front of him is even human. The victim screams in pain on the floor, as the enemy's movements are superhuman. We are shown Pai Ji-heol in a flashback, taking out several guys at once. The victim then realizes the rumors were true, and that he's a real ghost. Terrified, the man thinks he needs to escape, as his opponent's speed is unbelievable. But when he turns to run, his body simply won't respond to his commands. Suddenly, Pai Ji-heol appears behind him and finishes him off with a precise stab. With a sick smile, he faces Doyle, his next target in the room. The monster then asks if Doyle really wants to see the boss of all this. The scene shows the aftermath of the massacre, with bodies and blood everywhere. The last survivors run in panic, trying to escape the nightmare. Back in the flashback, Pai Ji-heol faces the henchmen, grinning at them like a madman. Then he charges forward with his knives and slices everyone up in a quick and brutal massacre. He then pauses for a moment, holding his blades, now stained with enemy blood. The monster announces that his boss is away on business, but would be back soon. At that moment, Doyle rushes him with a speed that startles the killer. He picks up one of the knives from the floor and is now armed to fight on equal terms. With incredible agility, Doyle dodges the attacks, showing he's not messing around. Pai Ji-heol is shocked and says that when his boss gets back to Seoul, all hell will break loose. But suddenly he sees his own knife flying towards him, not understanding what's happening. The guy freezes in shock, wondering what the hell is going on. Doyle then appears out of nowhere, preparing a massive blow to end the fight. The blow lands squarely on his face with a force the enemy never expected. The impact is so powerful it sends him flying uncontrollably across the warehouse. He crashes through the window and lands hard in the rain, screaming in pain from the beatdown. His teeth scatter across the wet ground, proving our protagonist's insane strength. Pai Ji-heol lies on the street, completely defeated and bloodied from the beating. We're shown that news of the defeat was immediately reported to the big boss. We then meet the fearsome Wang Kwa-kui, the top boss of Seokdong High. The scene changes to a prison-like building, with heavy rain falling outside. We see Pai Ji-heol in a wheelchair, showing the aftermath of his fight with Doyle. Someone then arrives and announces that an important meeting is about to begin. The light from the window illuminates the room, creating a tense atmosphere. The mysterious person then calls out his name, startling him. With a serious look, Pai Ji-heol turns to face the unexpected visitor. Someone shows a magazine about Kim Doyle, the guy who rules South Seoul. The scene changes, and we see Jang Chun-sik, Seokdong's rank 2, asking about an incident. Then John Jong-soo, rank 4, confirms the person responsible is a subordinate from Sumoon school. He says the guys suddenly invaded, demanding their boss come and kneel. Jong-soo brags about sending the guy away, but admits he was pretty pissed off. At that, Chun-sik rips up a piece of paper, saying the world is a real mess, but he surprises everyone by telling Jong-soo to just ignore what happened. Chun-sik explains this is the guy who lies about defeating Pai Ji-heol, which is a total lie. He says the guy has the same background as another one, who promotes himself by name-dropping. No one's going to believe that lie, and now he's trying to pick a fight with them. Jong-soo then remembers the other kid also acted like a tough guy. Chun-sik snaps his fingers, saying that for people like them, there's nothing left in the end. He calls them insignificant bastards who should just be completely ignored. The scene changes completely, showing the front of a school in a heavy downpour. We see someone on their phone watching a lesson on hand-to-hand combat techniques. One of his friends asks Doyle if he really thinks Wang Kwa-kui will show up. Doyle casually replies that if he comes, he'll just handle it and win. But his friend with glasses gets annoyed, saying he doesn't know Wang Kwa-kui's level. He asks Jinju for help, saying the guy is something beyond human. The scene shows Kwa-kui from behind, raising the question of whether he's human or not. Doyle then asks what they're talking about, seeming very calm about the situation. His friend remembers a rumor he heard that Wang Kwa-kui beat a bear to death with his bare hands. He even mentions that a black bear really did escape from the zoo 3 years ago. In a flashback, we see the bear causing panic and running wild through the city streets. But in the end, the animal was found dead by someone mysterious in the middle of the night. And the one who killed the bear was none other than the fearsome Wang Kwa-kui. Back in the present, Doyle just keeps drinking his juice, unfazed. His friend tells him to take it seriously, but Doyle just replies, "So what?" He looks at the school building, commenting that he already has a ton of things to do. The scene changes, and we see him on the rooftop, saying there's no turning back, and he was practicing. On the rooftop, Doyle faces the heavy rain, preparing for what's to come. He then states with certainty that Wang Kwa-kui will show up at Sumoon school. The scene shifts back to Seokdong school, where the night is also rainy. John Jong-soo approaches his boss to talk about this Kim Doyle guy. He finds his movements strange, similar to a guy named Ha Chae-ho. So he suggests they should attack now, before their enemies get stronger. But Chun-sik laughs, asking if he means Ha Chae-ho from the National Federation. He says if it were really Chae-ho, Doyle would have been defeated a long time ago. Just then, two girls enter the room, and Chun-sik tells him to stop talking nonsense. He looks at one of the girls, complimenting her and saying she's a cutie. Then Chun-sik introduces himself and asks what school she's from, and she replies, Cheonggil. He offers to call the big boss over there, Jang Hyunwoo, to make things easier for her. Jong-soo can only sigh, thinking his boss should take care of his own subordinates. Outside, he stares at a building, thinking that if he doesn't obey, he'll end up dead. But he knows if he tells Sumoon everything, the situation will turn into a mess anyway. John Jong-soo freaks out by himself, complaining about how difficult his social life is. Suddenly, the door bursts open with a bang, and he spins around, startled and confused. A blonde guy runs in, shouting that there's a huge problem, putting everyone on alert. He announces, out of breath, that their workshop was just hacked by some guy named Go Seokhyuk. Chun-sik remains silent, but his face shows he's really pissed off by the news. The scene cuts back to the rainy school, building tension in the air. Elsewhere, a large screen displays a message saying they've been caught and need the password. To get the password, they'll have to go to the head of Sumoon Ma Dong-gu tomorrow. Jong-soo recognizes the name instantly, saying that's the guy from Sumoon's school. Just then, Chun-sik gets a call, and Jong-soo confirms it's the same guy from the incident. He's shocked to learn that the other workshop, the one in Seodamun, was also hit. In silence, he processes the information, repeating the name Ma Dong-gu in his head. In a fit of pure rage, Chun-sik simply crushes the phone in his hand with all his might. He loses control and lets out a furious scream, showing just how enraged he is. The scene ends with Kim Doyle, walking calmly in the rain with an umbrella. Doyle stops, planting his feet firmly on the ground, feeling static electricity fill the air. He faces the approaching danger with a serious gaze, completely focused on his goal. In a quick flashback, we see someone in a blue hood being brutally attacked with an axe. Meanwhile, Chun-sik asks what ransomware is, wanting to know if the password solves everything. He loses his patience on the phone, yelling at the person on the other end to just spit it out. His anger is so great that the image around him shakes, showing his complete loss of control. After his outburst, he tries to calm down, taking a deep breath so he doesn't completely lose it. But suddenly, an imposing figure appears in the room. It was the boss, Wang Kwakui, arriving. Chun-sik turns pale instantly, stammering and wondering if it was really the boss. Immediately, all his subordinates bow in respect, welcoming him. Chun-sik swallows hard, his nervousness written all over his face in the big boss's presence. Wang Kwakui walks past him without a word, carrying a very intimidating presence. Chun-sik then follows him, apologizing for not going outside to greet him earlier. The big boss sits down, and the only thing that matters now is the name of the problem, Sumoon. He then asks where Sumoon's school is, already preparing to handle the situation. Chun-sik doesn't understand the question, wondering what the boss meant by that. Angrily, the boss throws a bottle at the table, which shatters on impact. The scene changes to a prison, where we're told a new kind of betting is going on. A prisoner says he went there to talk about money, but the situation is disappointing. We see the wheel of a wheelchair moving slowly down the prison corridor. He tells the guy in the wheelchair that he has nothing to talk to him about right now. With a trembling hand, he touches the glass separating them, looking very shaken by it all. Then, he says goodbye with a sinister smile, telling the other guy to take good care of himself. He explains that it only takes a moment to end up like that, and even he can't do anything about it anymore. The man in the wheelchair has a look of pure terror, remembering what happened. He then reveals that inside Sumoon School, a real demon lives. The scene returns to the school in the rain, with a loud clap of thunder splitting the sky. Wang Kwakui gives the order to gather all the organizations and head to Sumoon School. On the street, Doyle asks someone if they're the person who's been following him all day. Just then, a guy in a blue hood appears, saying, "It's been a while, Captain." The boss, Kwakui, then makes the final call, announcing that Seokdong is heading to Sumoon now. The scene changes completely, and now we're in Busan, South Korea, on a very sunny day. At a fancy place with a pool, a man complains that the other could have just gone to Seoul. He says that instead, they made him come all the way out here. But the other replies that his mother is in Seoul. The son stays silent, just listening to what his father has to say. The father then explains that he likes the ports, the hubs for land and sea transport. He is Kim Do-sung, the head of Blackhead, and he asks his son if it isn't romantic. With open arms, he says he missed his son, whom he adores so much. The son replies that it's been a year, and by now he's had enough time to tour Korea. His father asks when he plans to come back, offering him a face mask from a new product line. With a serious expression, the son says he's already told him his decision. He then states with absolute certainty that he's never coming back, leaving his father surprised. His father asks if he doesn't care what he says and questions if he's mad about the frozen account. The son doesn't answer, simply asking if that's all they had to talk about. He gets up to leave, saying he has an appointment, even as his father insists. The father relaxes with the mask on, saying it would be better to meet the president, as he can't get used to his own kids. The father still shouts that he loves his son, but he doesn't even look back and just keeps walking away. Then Kim Do-sung calls for his assistant, Gu-yoon, who is waiting in the corner of the room. He is Ji Gu-yoon, a member of Blackhead's S team, and he responds to his boss promptly. At the door, the son asks him to look after Doyle, because he causes trouble wherever he goes. The father laments the trouble Doyle caused in Japan, saying he can't take it anymore. But since Doyle got along with his brother, the father gives the order to bring him back. Gu-yoon makes a confirming gesture, accepting the mission from his boss. He then says his goodbyes, saying they'll meet back at the Blackhead headquarters. In the hallway, the son gets annoyed and asks Gu-yoon why he's still following him. The scene cuts to the school, where a group of students is already gathered on the soccer field. The digital clock reads 7:58 just moments before the scheduled time. The friend with glasses panics, unable to believe what that crazy Doyle has gotten them into. One of the students warns that Seokdong High is coming, and everyone should get ready. The friend starts to break out in a cold sweat, remembering how confident Doyle seemed before. In text messages, he asks where Doyle is, and the guy just replies that he's on his way. The friend with glasses despairs, wondering what he'll do if Doyle doesn't show up for the fight. One of the guys asks why they're there, and the other explains that Park Kang-wook sent them. The scene flashes back to someone offering him a snack, like a plea for help, and that someone, who looked like Doyle, asked him to help with the situation that was going down. Kang-wook justifies himself, saying he had no choice with the guy looking at him like that. One student suggests they watch and run if things go bad, but the friend thinks it's better to leave now. Suddenly, a muscular guy starts laughing loudly, super excited. He's pumped for the fight against Seokdong, something he's dreamed of since the army. Flexing his muscles, he yells that his heart is pounding, leaving the others impressed. Just then, the Sumoon High cheerleading squad arrives to watch what's about to happen. One of the girls asks Seol Mina if a gang fight really needs cheerleaders, but Mina strikes a pose, saying a pretty girl is always needed on the scene. She looks at the field and asks where Doyle is, getting angry that she only sees the others. The friend with glasses looks at his phone, trembling nervously over the protagonist's disappearance. He completely freaks out, yelling and wondering where Doyle went after starting all this mess. The clock approaches 8 o'clock, raising the tension even more for everyone there. One of the students says this fight makes no sense and suggests they run while they can. Doyle's friend with glasses gulps, pure fear etched on his face now. The scene changes, and we're at Yeongdeungpo Station, where a high-speed train is stopped. Gu-yoon says he found an apartment, but Doyle's brother replies that would be a death sentence. He keeps walking and looking at his phone, seeming very worried about something. The screen shows it's already 8:11, and he realizes he's very late for his appointment. Accidentally, he bumps hard into the shoulder of a guy who was passing by. He turns around, not quite understanding what happened, just questioning the whole situation. The cheerleaders note it's past 8. One reminds the others this is a brawl. The clock shows 8:28, and one of the students smiles in relief, drooling nervously. Doyle's friend laughs with happiness, shouting that he knew this didn't make any sense. Two students hug, celebrating that their school sucks, and that's why no one came. Seol Mina shows up with fried chicken, saying you can't just send them out to fight. The whole group relaxes, suggesting they leave and even take a picture to remember the moment. Kang-wook complains that the fight didn't happen and asks the friend next to him for a cigarette. Scared, the friend freezes up, and Kang-wook insists he hurry up and pass him the cigarette, but he points to the school entrance, stammering and showing that something was wrong. Just then, two guys appear on the wall, looking shocked at the movement that was happening. They run off and open the gate, looking desperate because of what they saw outside. Suddenly, a huge crowd of guys invades the school, running towards the soccer field. One of the students' eyes go wide, completely shocked by the scene he's watching. An overhead view shows the Sumoon students being surrounded in the middle of the field. The invaders rush in, and the Sumoon kids have no idea what's going on. Doyle's friend goes into a full-blown panic, screaming in fear as the enemies arrive. The Seokdong gang advances relentlessly, with looks that mean business. And at the front, we see Jung Myung-hwan, the leader of one of Seokdong's affiliated groups. Right after, Jung Do-man appears, a giant guy who leads another affiliated school. Also in the group was Seokdong's rank 3, the stylish and dangerous Bai Yu-hwan. And to complete the team, rank 2 Jang Chun-sik shows up, ready to start the fight. And finally, the leader of Seokdong, Wang Kwakui, arrives asking who the demon of Sumoon is. The scene cuts back to Doyle's brother at the station, who still has a calm expression. Suddenly, Yoo Jung-suk shows up, greeting the guy and saying they meet again. Ji Gu-yoon, who was with him, just watches the group arrive, not understanding a thing. They are now surrounded by several guys, and Doyle's brother realizes the situation has gotten complicated. Just then, Ju Ha-young approaches and warns that they never forgive a person twice. He's the leader of Nampurim, showing that the problem here was much more serious. While the commotion is happening, the station clock already reads 8:24 at night. Ha-young then faces him, grabbing his shoulder and asking what he thinks of the situation. The fight starts for real, and one of the Sumoon students immediately takes a hard punch to the face. Chaos erupts on the field as the students are mercilessly beaten by the Seokdong gang. But the boss, Kwakui, is just chilling, prepping his meat and cracking open a beer to watch. He settles in comfortably, popping the can open as if he were at a backyard barbecue. One of the students runs in desperation, asking why the gang is only coming after him. Kwakui watches everything closely, his gaze serious and locked on his main target. The boy keeps running and shouting for them not to get closer, begging them to go away. Just then, the boss picks up a piece of meat, wondering if that's really the guy they're looking for. He wipes his mouth and asks his men if that weakling is really the Sumoon's leader. One of the subordinates confirms, saying he looks a lot like the boy in the photo they received. The picture was of Donggu, the same one who appeared on the screen when they were hacked. But seeing him run like that, he just seemed like some random guy in the crowd. One of the guys says he's just a parasite, but Chunsik questions if a parasite would invade the workshops. He asks Bae Yuhwan if the kid is a big deal, but the other one replies that's not it. Meanwhile, a student is getting beaten with toy swords, begging the guy to let him go. Bae Yuhwan finds it strange for someone to provoke Seokdong, sensing that something is wrong. Kwakui watches Donggu run, who keeps shouting and wondering why they're chasing him. With great force, the boss crushes the raw piece of meat in his hand. He's certain then, confirming that the demon he was looking for definitely lives here. The boss grinds his teeth in hatred, crushing the meat with even more rage. The online lesson comes to mind, reminding him that step 1 is to always stay calm. Just then, one of the Seokdong guys points at Donggu and yells that he's the leader. Donggu freezes in terror, shocked at being discovered by them. He takes off running, yelling that he's not the leader, trying to escape the mess. He thinks there's no way he can stay calm since he's about to be beaten to death. Then lesson 2 appears, talking about how to maintain and conserve his stamina. He forgets about being calm because when it comes to stamina, he's more than trained. We see a flashback of him training for a run, showing he prepared for this. But what good does it do? He gets caught and takes a heavy blow to the neck. Now surrounded, Donggu has nowhere to run, cornered by his enemies. He takes a double hit and falls to the ground, screaming desperately for his mom. He braces himself to fight several of them, but he knows their stamina is much greater. One of the guys hits a pressure point, leaving him momentarily stunned. Then, he takes a glowing blow right to the chest, sending him flying from the impact. The blow is so powerful it throws him backward, making him land awkwardly on the ground. Down and breathless, he can't believe the force of the attack he just took. The enemies close in on him, shouting that he's going to die for this right now. He protects himself on the ground, thinking that stamina is useless against so many guys. Suddenly, a fat guy fires a shot in the air, getting everyone's attention. In a flashback, we see Doyle's brother handing him the gun for 2 million won. It's explained that the gun is a semi-automatic Glock with rubber bullets. Donggu recognizes his friend Changsu, who asks if his comrades are okay. But he gets hit, sending the guns flying and leaving Donggu very confused. The Seokdong gang rushes him, beating the guy up and asking who the pig is. Donggu screams his friend's name, who is being beaten relentlessly and yelling that it hurts a lot. Seeing his friend get beaten, Donggu becomes furious, grinding his teeth in pure rage. He then charges forward, shouting at the cowards to stop ganging up on one person. One of the Seokdong guys turns, finding it absurd that they're talking about cowardice while using a gun. The combat lesson returns to his mind, reminding him that step 3 is to stick to the basics. Donggu shouts that a gun is for cowards, landing a punch on the face of the guy who provoked him. With a quick move, he lands a hard slap on the enemy's neck, destabilizing him. He takes advantage of the opening and hits another opponent, showing that he's learned to defend himself well. His feet and fists move with agility, applying the basic moves he trained so hard on. Donggu lands a hard blow, even as the guy yells that he wasn't the one who shot. Ignoring him, he finishes with a powerful strike, sending the enemy flying. He pauses for a second, taking a deep breath and bracing for the rest of the fight to come. Looking at his hands, he's shocked that the combo he practiced actually worked. Then, A smile of satisfaction appears as he sees that his training has paid off. But he quickly becomes desperate, shouting for his friend Chang-soo to hang on, that he's coming to help, and in a moment of distraction, he takes a flying kick that catches him completely by surprise. The kick lands squarely, knocking Dong-gu to the ground with its impact. One of the guys yells that he's the infamous Ma Dong-gu and orders everyone to crush him now. Mercilessly, the enemies start kicking Dong-gu on the ground, giving him no chance to react. The fourth combat lesson then comes to mind. Use grudge and willpower to fight. Even while being beaten, he refuses to give up and glares at the enemy with pure hatred in his eyes. He lets out a scream of pain, but the blows keep coming from all sides without stopping. The scene changes to the school's staircase as someone wonders what all the commotion is about. Kang-wook realizes there are 10 times more of them, and his friend suggests they run for it. He then takes off running ahead, shouting for Kang-wook, that crazy bastard, to run too. While he catches his breath, Dong-gu continues to get beaten badly on the ground, defenseless. Stopping near the soda machine, he yells for his sly friend to wait for him. But suddenly, the muscular Park Jinju jumps into the fight, hitting everyone with force. He lets out a war cry, showing he's not there to play around. Alone, he manages to take down 30 Sukdong guys, showcasing his absurd strength. Bae Yu-hwan admits that he's strong, but says the rest are nothing but useless. Chun-sik yells for his men to get out of the way and finish everyone off quickly. The clock reads 8:42, and he feels that something is very strange about this. He wonders how they made their boss move, suspecting some kind of trap. All bruised up, Dong-gu can barely breathe, spitting blood and completely exhausted. The other Sumoon students are also finished, panting and with no strength left to continue. Park Jinju questions if this is the famous hunting tactic of Seokdong High. The scene shows the few remaining students, completely surrounded in the middle of the field. Chun-sik loses his patience, shouting and ordering his men to finish them off already. At that, the rest of the gang advances at once, charging at the cornered students. Mina's friend comments that it doesn't seem like a good time for fried chicken right now. She suggests calling the police, but Mina says the chicken is a lost cause and looks for her phone. Suddenly, the giant Jong Duman arrives and asks what the cuties are doing there. Far away, Kang-wook's friend yells at him to hurry up and get out of there, but Kang-wook just asks if he's tired already, while taking a deep, exhausted breath. Back at the fight, Dong-gu is on the ground, getting his head mercilessly bashed in. Kang-wook suddenly decides, saying he thinks he'd better go back to the fight after all. His friend calls him crazy, asking why he would go back and if he dropped his phone. He remembers Doyle offering him a snack while asking for his help earlier. So Kang-wook explains that he promised to help the kid, leaving his friend confused. He strikes a dramatic pose, saying he's used to the pain anyway. His friend can't believe it, wondering what kind of crazy logic that was. Elsewhere, the giant Jong Duman carries the cheerleaders, who promise revenge. Meanwhile, Dong-gu's ankle is being twisted hard by one of the enemies. He's mercilessly dragged across the ground, leaving a trail of blood where they pull him. Completely beaten, he thinks that so-called blackhead fighting style was useless. With a bloodied face, he says the technique is useless and curses Kim Doyle. Being dragged by Park Jinju, he calls Doyle a damn liar and a fraud. Now Dong-gu is tied up and gagged, unable to do anything but panic. All the students have been defeated. Even Jinju is on the ground, proving the demon lives here. The Seokdong gang watches the hostages, showing just how ridiculous the idea of fighting back was. The boss, Kwa Kui, stares into space, wondering why that guy PG Cheol lied to him. One of his men asks what to do, and Kwa Kui replies that they must be punished. He starts with the one on the left, ordering them to gouge out one of his eyes. Next, he orders them to cut off the ears of the next one and to crush the other's leg to cripple him. And for Dong-gu, who fought until the end, the boss's order is simple: just kill him. The scene changes, and the plan is explained. Frame the Kang-soo and Sumoon schools for the incident. The story would be that in the middle of the fight, a problem student died in a tragic accident. Chun-sik then asks Young Myung-hwan, the head of Kang-soo, what he thinks of the plan. He agrees immediately, saying he'll gather the guys with criminal records to handle it without any issues. One of the students trembles in fear, desperately begging to be forgiven. They all beg for forgiveness, but Kwa Kui can only laugh at how pathetic they look. Chun-sik then smiles, asking if they've finally realized the mistake they made. The student in the dobok grows desperate, screaming and begging to be forgiven just this once. He yells that he's truly sorry, pleading for them to spare him. Just then, a knife is thrown on the ground right in front of him, intensifying the boy's terror. The boss, Kwa Kui, then points to the side, drawing attention to the bound Ma Dong-gu. He reminds them that Dong-gu was the one who resisted until the end, and that he is their leader. So he makes a proposal: kill Dong-gu, and his punishment will be lifted. The student is stunned, just staring at the knife, breathless, facing the decision he has to make. He remembers the boss's order to gouge out one of his eyes. With his hand shaking violently, he makes up his mind and finally picks up the knife from the ground. Chunsik and Myung-hwan step back, a sadistic smile on their faces. A friend approaches to help, worried, calling Sang-chul by name, but he pushes him away, crying, stumbling back, not knowing what to do. Sang-chul then approaches Dong-gu, who is tied up and awaiting his end. But suddenly, he plunges the knife into his own hand, letting out a scream of pure pain and agony. His friend is shocked by the scene, asking why the hell he did that. Sang-chul cries and asks Dong-gu why he started this ridiculous thing in the first place. Chunsik finds it amusing, as the boy says they're weak and couldn't do anything. Crying, he screams that from the very beginning, people like them never stood a chance. But Dong-gu stares back at him, reminding him that they're good at enduring things. A flashback shows Dong-gu being bullied, beaten, and humiliated at school. The scene continues, showing he could have just kept enduring it all in silence. Two Seokdong guys yawn, saying what the loser is talking about is boring. In a memory, Dong-gu says they need to help others like them, but Sang-chul disagrees. Back in the present, Chunsik slaps Sang-chul hard on the back of the neck, shutting him up. He tells the boy to stop the drama and just stab Dong-gu already, no more messing around. With a sinister look, he threatens him, telling him to do it before he kills him instead. Sang-chul then grips the knife with all his strength, trembling with the decision he's made. He briefly turns the blade toward his own body, groaning in pain as the handle shakes in his fingers. With tears streaming down his face, he gives a painful smile, showing his suffering and resilience. Chunsik is furious at the scene, yelling at the bastard to just stab the other guy already. With a cry of agony, Sang-chul lunges with the knife toward his friend. Dong-gu, still gagged, widens his eyes at the boy's sacrifice in front of him. The scene cuts to the cheerleaders, who have also been tied to a post in the rain. But suddenly Dong-gu looks toward the field entrance, wondering if that's Kim Doyle. Heavy rain begins to fall on the field, making the atmosphere of defeat even worse. Just then, Park Kang-wook appears, telling the Seokdong guys to stop right now. He can't believe what he's doing himself, thinking he's a complete lunatic for getting involved. But he remembers that everything has felt unreal, from the fall of Ilgyung High until now. In a flashback, he questions Doyle, asking why he should help when they were enemies. Doyle replies that he's also from Sumoon, which makes him wonder if he's gone insane. Back in the present, he screams with all his might, telling the bastards to get out of the school. Without hesitation, he fires the rubber bullet gun toward the Seokdong group. The shot grazes Chunsik, who asks why he wants them to leave. Kang-wook runs to save Dong-gu, who desperately screams for him in his mind. But he stops halfway, looking up at the rain and thinking about the mess he's gotten himself into. Lying on the ground, Sang-chul coughs non-stop, while Chunsik says he's sick of these losers. He then hands a vial to another student, telling him to hurry up so he doesn't end up the same. We see a close-up of the blood-stained vial, a small object with enormous weight. Elsewhere, Kang-wook is also on the ground, spitting up a lot of blood and badly injured. The boy in the dobok looks at the scene in desperation, panting, his eyes wide with terror. Chunsik then shouts in anger, telling him to just stab Dong-gu once and for all. With the knife in hand, the boy prepares to strike, hatred written all over his face. But he remembers a photo on his phone of how they dreamed about their future at the school. He stares at the building's lights, realizing it was all just a huge mistake. Crying, he says that their turn doesn't exist because it's not for people like them. Kneeling, he screams that there was never a chance for them from the very beginning. Dong-gu tries to scream, mentally begging Sang-chul not to do anything crazy. The knife comes forward and Dong-gu turns his face away, waiting for the final blow from his friend. But suddenly, a motorcycle bursts onto the field, running over the Seokdong gang. Chunsik and Bae Yu-hwan look up in surprise, not understanding where this interruption came from. The boss, Wang Kwa-kui, remains seated, watching everything with a very bored expression. Heavy rain pours down on the field as the newcomers face the Seokdong gang. The scene changes, and we see Seol Mina tied up and gagged, completely helpless. He asks Guyun how many opponents there are, and the answer is 87. He then asks his assistant for help, who replies that of course he will. One of the henchmen charges forward, questioning who the hell just showed up, but his attack is blocked in midair, leaving the guy completely confused by the scene. The guy lets out a scream of pain as Doyle's brother moves forward without looking back. Sang-chul looks at his friend Dong-gu, who is still tied up in the middle of the field. Sang-chul's face shows pure sadness, contrasting with the newcomer's calm demeanor. Tears stream from his eye as he approaches to comfort the fallen boy. Sang Cheol kneels on the ground, crying and letting out all his frustration. With a firm voice, he then tells the boy to get up, because the fight isn't over. He faces the enemies and declares that now, finally, it's their time to shine. An announcement says the train to Busan is now leaving the station. Inside, Yu Jong-seok seems lost in thought, until he decides to call his boss. In a flashback, his boss warns him that he might forgive him once, but never twice. The camera focuses on Doyle's brother's serious gaze, showing his cold determination. Ju Ha-young then smirks, saying their reunion feels like fate. He invites him for a drink, and the two walk away side by side. Gu-yoon joins them, and Ha-young mutters something as they walk away from the station, but Yu Jong-seok calls him back, noticing the bastard seems to be in a hurry. Doyle's brother then tosses him a key, telling him to use it if he needs anything. He explains it's for exit 1, and the place is right in front of the station. We see a motorcycle in the rain as he promises they'll definitely have that drink next time. Back on the train, Jung-seok asks his boss why he keeps helping that guy. Ha-young just gives a mysterious smile, not giving the boy a clear answer. The scene ends with the train departing, leaving the station and all the chaos behind. Back at school, we see several bodies lying on the ground after the intense fight. The brawl is in full swing, and Dong-gu thinks he finally understands Doyle now. He wonders who the guy helping is, but he knows that together, they took down 70 people. Seol Mina appears, now free, eating chicken and cheering them on, leaving Dong-gu completely shocked. He then walks over and asks Kang-wook if he can call him Hyung. Kang-wook says it's fine, since he is the eternally angsty Park Kang-wook after all. He continues, saying he's been in this state for months, which is why he came to help. He shows he came prepared, making the other guy relieved to know he's okay. Lying on the ground, Park Jinju begs not to be forgotten in the middle of all the chaos. As the fight rages on, one of the students questions if they should just stand by and watch. Another one points out that Seol Mina is even eating, but at least she didn't get hurt. Doyle arrives and apologizes, telling them to move the injured out of the way. The boy says it's best not to get in the way, but he's curious about Wang Kwakwe. He notices the boss's expression hasn't changed. He even seems to be enjoying the fight. Doyle feels a chill down his spine and lunges forward, landing a luminous blow. Seeing all his men on the ground, Chun-sik starts laughing maniacally. Chun-sik mocks them, saying Sumoon was hiding its secret weapon after all. He remarks that there was no way those losers would provoke them without a good reason. Staring down Doyle, he asks if he's really the top dog they were talking about. He then recognizes the face, saying he's the liar who took down Jikhail. He laughs, holding up the Thunder Fist magazine, and scoffs at the middle school nickname. Chun-sik admits he's not an idiot, but at this level, no one will hire him. He charges, saying the guy who retired one of the 12 nations doesn't look like much. The scene shows PG Cheol, the king of Ilgyung, the first one to ever unify the school, but it's explained that before him, another guy almost managed to unify Ilgyung's forces, and that guy holding his defeated enemies was none other than Jang Chun-sik. People started calling him a loser after the incident with PG Cheol, but after taking over Southwest Seoul, he proved his true power to everyone. Jang Chun-sik became known as fear itself, but what truly scared him was something else. The scene shows him threatening a couple, saying he shouldn't have picked a fight. With a pair of scissors, he says the guy only needs to lose one finger and prepares for the act. One of the students warns that Jinju is up, but they need to be careful with Jang Chun-sik. Suddenly, Chun-sik is hit by a mysterious blow, leaving him in shock. He's unable to understand the attack. Park Jinju gets up from the ground, facing his enemy with a serious and determined look. Chun-sik can't believe what just happened, wondering what the hell that attack was. It's explained that Doyle precisely targeted his weak spot, the first knot. He wonders how any normal person could aim for that spot in the middle of such an intense fight. Chun-sik thinks it's impossible and tells himself to stay calm and not fall for any tricks. Then Doyle lands a low blow, and Chun-sik thinks he knows how to play this game. He pretends to fall for the provocation, preparing for a powerful counterattack, but Doyle dodges the blow with impressive calm and agility. Chun-sik falls to the ground, realizing his opponent has already moved on to the next attack. He turns quickly, trying to keep up with his enemy's insane speed. With a stomp on the ground, Doyle creates a shockwave of blue energy. Chun-sik decides to act like a fool who's lost control, to trick Doyle. But he takes a hard hit, realizing Doyle was focused the entire time. Chun-sik prepares for the final blow, setting a trap for our hero. With a series of attacks, his tactic is to lower Doyle's mental guard, Then, he throws a bait punch, trying to guide his opponent towards a lower strike. But with a smile, Doyle turns the tables, showing that the fight is over. Park Jinju panics, warning that this is Jang Chun-sik's specialty. He prepares for his crushing knee strike, a blow that can even crack an enemy's face. But something goes wrong with the attack, and he's left confused about what happened. Chun-sik questions himself, unable to believe what he's seeing and how the blow failed. In reality, Doyle landed a fast and precise uppercut right on his chin. He doesn't understand, because he's sure he attacked first, but he still got hit. Then, he's hit with a barrage of luminous blows, with no way to defend himself. He screams in pain, wondering what the hell kind of crazy technique this is. Looking at the scene, he doesn't get it, since the guy didn't seem like anything special. It's explained that Doyle's positioning and timing were perfect for the counterattack. He stumbles, groaning in pain, unable to believe his unbeatable move failed. He doesn't understand how Doyle's fist managed to hit him so precisely. It's like a game of chess, and he wonders how many moves ahead Doyle is. Doyle seizes the opening, landing a heavy blow that makes him scream in pain. Chun-sik sees the blow coming and prepares to counter with everything he's got, but he takes a punch to the face that leaves him completely stunned. The impact sends him stumbling back a few steps, trying to process the speed of the attack. He wipes the blood from his mouth in disbelief that he couldn't dodge the hit. Even though it seemed like a simple punch, he realizes it's not, that there's something more to it. Chun-sik freaks out, saying the guy defies all logic he knows about fighting. With his eyes wide with terror, he wonders what kind of thing is standing before him. A purple and red aura surrounds Doyle, who looks like a demon with his glowing eyes. His eye glows red, showing the insane amount of power he's unleashed. Chun-sik stammers, asking if he really managed to defeat Pijicho like that. Without giving him time to answer, he takes a chop to the neck that knocks him out instantly. Donggu and Guyun watch the scene, shocked by what they've just witnessed. The boss, Wang Kwakui, finally rises from his chair, preparing to join the fight. From a high angle, we see Jang Chun-sik falling hard after the fatal blow. The impact of his fall is so strong it cracks the ground and creates a crater. Chun-sik is now on the ground, completely defeated with no chance of getting back up. At that moment, Wang Kwakui unbuttons his suit, showing that things just got serious. He finally recognizes Doyle, calling him the true demon of Sumoon High. Our hero touches his ear, focusing for the final showdown that's about to begin. He then remembers there are still a few more guys to take down besides the boss. Guyun and Bei Yuhuan are still there, watching the fight intently from a distance. The two glare at each other with hatred, the tension between them growing with every second. The boss then looks at the group, saying they've also been there the whole time.